Chapter 783, Yuqin Li's skills. The meeting with Yang Yuanhao remained a secret to everyone else. Only Zhuo Mo and Yang Yuanhao attended this meeting. Even the sect leader of Lotus Sutra sect excused himself. Zhuo Mo gained greatly in this meeting. For Mo Cloud C, they needed the 9 great Dhyana sects to stop Kunlun and Tianhuan. For the 9 great Dhyana sects, they also needed Mo Cloud C support. The two had common interests and demands, so all that was left, dividing the benefits, was easy. Zhuo Mo was the boss of Mo Cloud C, Yang Yuanhao was the first-ranked battle general of the 9 great Dhyana sect, a person with true power in the 9 great Dhyana sects. Both were decision-makers for their factions. Adding on that the two both had strong strategic vision and knew where the other's bottom line was at, the process went smoothly. Through Yang Yuanhao, Zhuo Mo learned that the bigger sects in the 9 great Dhyana sects were closer than outsiders thought. For example, the sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple was Yang Yuanhao's paternal aunt. This kind of tangled relation caused Zhuo Mo to gape. However, this also eased the majority of his worries. As long as the 5 larger sects did not turn on each other and creating chaos, then the 9 great Dhyana sects would not easily fall to Kunlun and Tianhuan. Zhuo Mo expressed his worries and fury about the sects that had been infiltrated the most heavily. Yang Yuanhao subtly implied to him that Mo Cloud C could use some methods in secret. Zhuo Mo quickly realized that Yang Yuanhao wanted to use him to eliminate these troubles. Yang Yuanhao himself had boundaries to his influence and he could not do many things. Zhuo Mo acknowledged and confirmed. While it would be troublesome, this was also an opportunity for Zhuo Mo. However, what surprised Zhuo Mo the most was that Yang Yuanhao was willing to support Zhuo Mo to compete for the Shin device nucleus inside the ancient ruins. Zhuo Mo had never thought that there would be a sect that did not desire a Shin device raiment. Little Mo Gu was a smart person and he immediately had a higher opinion of Yang Yuanhao. This person wasn't just an exceptional person. Yang Yuanhao knew the status of the 9 great Dhyana sects. While a Shin device raiment was of use to the 9 great Dhyana sects, it was not so important. If the 9 great Dhyana sects were threatened by top factions like Kunlun and Tianhuan, Mo Cloud C would definitely not sit by. Also, the location of the 9 great Dhyana sect meant it was fated to be a territory where there would be constant skirmishes. Rather than have the Shin device raiment that would not be of great use to their problems, it was better to trade it for Shin equipment which would increase the collective ability of their battalions. As expected, Yang Yuanhao raised this as his request. He wanted to use their support to trade for a shipment of Mo Cloud Shin equipment. Zhuo Mo agreed without hesitation. Mo Cloud C was the exact opposite of the 9 great Dhyana sects. The battalions had long ago been outfitted with Shin equipment. For them, Shin device raiments that were valuable strategic weapons that they desired the most. A shipment of Shin equipment for the rich Mo Cloud C was not a problem at all. The conversation was pleasurable. Yang Yuanhao was a person with great personal charisma. Zhuo Mo noticed that Yang Yuanhao's power within the 9 great Dhyana sects was stronger than he imagined. Yang Yuanhao warned him that there was an extremely high number of experts this time. Almost all of the strongest of the world had gathered, especially the Yao and Mo experts. After cultivating Shin power, the Mo and the Yao also saw the rise of a group of exceptionally powerful Shin power users. Compared to the fame of Kunlun and Tianhuan's members, no one really knew where these people came from. Any Shin device raiment was an irresistible temptation for any top Shin power user or any faction with ambition. Zhuo Mo nodded seriously. He suddenly found that the exploration of the ruins this time would not be as easy as he had imagined. With the local power Lotus Sutra Temple leading the way, the traces of Zhuo Mo's group were concealed. They had good intelligence, they did not attract any attention as they arrived at the border of the ruins. While there was still a few days until the ruins opened, it was possible to see people scattered in this area exploring the geography or trying to search for clues. There aren't many people. Mo was slightly happy. Naturally, the fewer people here the better. Competition would not be as fierce if there were fewer participants. The White Lotus Reverend imperceptibly glanced at him and said with a calm expression, "At the start, there were many people, but fights kept on breaking out. Some people tried to use the chaos to steal the artifacts. In one night, over 300 people died and then the population here decreased." Mo's smile froze on his face. The expressions of other people also became serious. More than 300 people dying in one night. Just these few words were enough for people to imagine the chaos and cruelty of that night. "Don't you maintain order?" Lao De Guang couldn't resist asking. It had to be said that all people had their own ways. Lao De Guang, this famed thief, had many unorthodox channels of information. He was likely more informed than Lotus Sutra Temple in some aspects. "How can we control it?" An expression of helplessness appeared on White Lotus Reverend's face. He said coolly, "Right now, the Shen power experts in this area could destroy the sect if they decided to work together." Lao De Guang became silent. Mo was not surprised by this. He only rejoiced that Mo Cloud Sea did not have a ruin of this kind. Otherwise, regardless of whether he could get the treasure, safety would be a problem. Even in Mo Cloud Sea where there were many top experts, they were insignificant against all of the Shen power experts in the world. If these madmen went on a rampage, no one could survive them. "Humph. Anyone who stops us from getting rich will die," Little Mo Gu said viciously. The White Lotus Reverend smiled and handed over a jade scroll. "Inside is the geography of this area. We have already explored this area. This was prepared for us originally, but we can only give it to you now." At this time, Wei Xing suddenly turned his head. "It is best for you not to fight back. I do not mind killing you." A cold voice came from the darkness. It was ethereal and one was unable to pin their position from the voice. "Assassin." Only those assassins that moved in the darkness would give him a feeling like this. He also knew from his days as a member of the underground what level of assassin he was facing. Uncle Yan's expression was normal, and he was motionless like a statue. His expression was still calm as though he did not feel the murderous intent at his back. "Why are you doing this? Miss has not refused you." Uncle Yan's voice did not tremble at all. He seemed to be describing a simple truth. "Our time is precious." Another voice came from another direction in the darkness. This voice was light, and filled with warmth and friendliness as though they were talking with an old friend. Yet Uncle Yan's eyelid flicked. He was still composed. "We need time to consider. You also know that this is a significant decision. Actually, I don't mind kidnapping her." The soft female voice in the darkness seemed to say in a teasing tone. "Or send her to the bed of Elder Yi's grandnephew." Uncle Yan's heart suddenly dropped. "We did not do so because she is an outstanding candidate." The voice in the darkness was still cheerful. "However, you know that people in our profession never put our eggs in one basket. She is outstanding, but not irreplaceable." Uncle Yan was silent but he also knew that there was no chance now. "What do you want?" "That's right, don't make it difficult for me. Everyone's out to make a living, why make ourselves unhappy? We only need her talent, not her body. We will protect her clan, our offer is very sincere. Other than me, I believe that no one will offer such a deal." The voice cheerfully added from the darkness, "A condition like this should not be refused." Uncle Yen was a person who lived life on the edge of his blade. He could hear the other's decisiveness and strong presence. His side and their side were not on the same level. He was silent for a moment before he said, "I will persuade Mississippi, great, I give you my thanks." The voice in the darkness was still so warm and friendly, yet the next sentence they said was as cruel and ruthless as a blade's edge. "Boss said one thing that may make you unhappy, but for our beautiful partnership, I have decided to be honest." "What words?" Uncle Yan's cold sweat dripped down his back. The murderous intent from the other direction became even stronger, as though it was going to pierce into his bones. He even suspected that the other would suddenly attack in the next moment. Lambs do not qualify to negotiate with wolves. The phrase swirled like smoke. The sharp murderousness at his back slowly retreated. However, Uncle Yan was motionless like a statue. A long time later, he shifted his body. His body was completely covered in sweat. Yet his face was ashen right now. The other's words right before they left hit him at his weak point like a hammer. At this time, whines suddenly came from the darkness. Uncle Yan's expression changed slightly. He shot like lightning into the darkness. In the darkness, he found Song Ling Shui pale-faced, tied up and gagged. "I do not like this," Nan Yu said calmly. At her side, the other people also had gazes full of unfriendliness and enmity. In their view, it was too cruel of Yu Qinlai to use such terrible actions against a girl of only 17. Yu Qinlai glanced at her. "It's fine if the result is the same. Are you even a person? Do you even have any kindness? You are a demon, you are a bastard." Nan Yu suddenly shouted furiously at Yu Qinlai. She suddenly reached out and gripped Yu Qinlai's neck, her eyes sprouting fire. She appeared as though she wanted to snap Yu Qinlai's neck. Snap! No one saw the movement. Yu Qinlai seemed to turn into a shadow, and then the two switched positions. He had grabbed Nan Yu's neck. The orange-haired Yao and the others suddenly stood up. "If anyone moves, she's dead." Yu Qinlai's cold voice echoed in the hall. The orange-haired Yao and the others stopped where they were. They could hear that the other was honest, he would really kill Nan Yu. Yu Qinlai expressionlessly looked over the group, intimidating them all. Chapter 784, Trump Card. Shang Yuxing's battalion was like a sharp dagger that cut through the night sky. Shang Yuxing's strategic ability was on full display. He cut in through Xin battalion at a good angle and immediately cut a great wound in Bihan's Xin battalion. Xin battalion, which had been fighting for a long time, was not able to hold up against Shang Yuxing battalion, who were well rested. Shang Yuxing's battle style was unlike Hai Jin Yun's ferociousness. His style was more detailed. He was a rare MO battle general that was a control type. He led the battalion with ease. His body brimmed with power, yet he never attacked with great momentum but used small moves that did not seem to be strong. Yet these seemingly weak moves were unique in that they came rapidly and endlessly like the rain. These sustained attacks were more troublesome than Hai Jin Yun's attacks. Shang Yuxing's exceptional foresight and sense of strategy always allowed him to find the greatest weakness in the enemy formation. He seemed to be leading a group of ants that constantly chewed. If one was the least bit careless, they would find that, without realizing it, Shang Yuxing had destroyed a large portion of their forces. Bihan naturally was not a weak person. Now that Shang Yuxing joined the battle, it decreased his advantage greatly, but he immediately adjusted. Xin battalion's movements became even harder to predict, and the rate that the battle formation changed was shocking. Shang Yuxing immediately felt pressure. As expected of Bihan, Shang Yuxing was shocked inside. He was not a beginner at battle, but it was the first time he felt such a great pressure. What roused his admiration was that Bihan was fighting 1 against 2. In this kind of situation, Bihan was still able to give him such great pressure. This meant that Bihan's control of battle was great. Shang Yuxing's spirit rose. What an honor it was to fight such a powerful opponent. His gaze became even more determined, his steps more graceful. He felt that he had never been in such a great state. The entire battlefield appeared in his mind in every detail. The attacks that left his hand increased in rate. The attacks that had been like a rainstorm before were now a flood that sprouted from his hand. With the support of his entire battalion, Shang Yuxing didn't feel any tiredness. Hai Jin Yun would occasionally give a shuddering howl. He was in a frenzy, the remainders of his battalion was also fighting in a frenzy. They were fearless and seemed mad. With the two battle generals working together, the pressure on Bihan increased drastically. Bihan's cold face seemed to be carved from granite. He seemed to not notice the sudden increase in pressure and the increasing rate of battle. The remaining two-thirds of Sin battalion managed to hold off the furious attack of the two large battalions. The battle became unprecedentedly horrific. The two sides were fighting for control over the rhythm of the battle. The rhythm of the battle could not be seen or touched, but both sides knew that the side which controlled the rhythm of the battle would be closest to victory. The attacks from the two sides constantly changed. In the sky, the multicolored lights crisscrossed like rain. The scouts spying on this battle were stunned. They unconsciously held their breath, spells such as mirage formation sending back this scene to every corner of the Xiuzhou world. This was the first significant conflict after several years of peace. It naturally attracted the eyes of the world. After the two sides started to fight, all the factions sent out strong scouts to infiltrate this area in order to see and understand this battle better. The amount of manpower the two sides, Mo Cloud Sea and the Mo Martial Alliance, had was limited. They could block out large battalions but could not stop these small scout teams. Due to this, as the state of the conflict grew clearer, the location of the final battle was gradually discovered. The scouts of almost every power in the world gathered around Bright Mountain Jia. These outstanding scouts hid in the darkness and used methods such as mirage formations and thousand-li water mirrors to send recordings of the battle to their territories. Innumerable eyes were watching this important battle. When the battle reached this state, everyone unconsciously held their breath. The two sides were at a rhythm that was astounding. The battle generals that were watching all had grave expressions and were silent as their eyes were locked onto the images. The situation is disadvantageous to Bihan, Xuedong said in a deep voice. However, he was already stunned that Bihan had managed to draw out the battle until now. Mo Cloud Sea was Kunlun's greatest worry. The two were sworn enemies, so Kunlun paid more attention to this fight. However, up until now, what shocked Xuedong the most was Shang Yusheng and Hai Jinyun's strength. They were stronger than he predicted. He suddenly turned his head and ordered, "Send someone to investigate Hai Jinyun and Shang Yusheng, especially Shang Yusheng." In his eyes, Shang Yusheng was undoubtedly a bigger threat and had more potential. Shang Yusheng's strategic vision was outstanding, and he was experienced in focused attacks. He had more room to grow. Lin Qian's gaze did not move away from the screen. He said softly, "Bihan still has other moves." Before he finished, the situation on the battlefield changed again. At this time, only half of Bihan's Sin battalion was left. His fatality rate was 50% and the situation was greatly disadvantageous to Bihan. Hai Jinyun at this time did not care about fatalities, his intentions were clear, a life for a life. Shang Yusheng's constant barrage quickly showed their result. As Sin battalion's fatalities increased, Shang Yusheng and Hai Jinyun's advantage in manpower became even more evident. Bihan's Sin battalion was outnumbered by the two other battalions to start with. If he wanted to win, he had to preserve his forces and reduce the number of losses. Shang Yusheng and Hai Jinyun both knew this. Hai Jinyun was using a suicidal method to increase Bihan's Sin battalion losses. Up until now, their goal had been realized well. A fatality rate of 50% was the highest fatality rate in the history of Sin battalion. The remaining Sin battalion soldiers were not completely uninjured. Most of their Shin equipment was in pieces. This meant that they could be more easily wounded and killed. Yet Bihan's expression was still cold and immovable. Just as many people thought that Bihan's defeat was certain, a dark light suddenly came from the bodies of the remaining Sin battalion members. Countless dark red seal scripts were like a crowd of earthworms that swam around their body. The gray-white eyes of Sin battalion soldiers were still empty and gray, yet their presence exploded. "It's here." Gongye Xiaorong, who had been silent all this time, couldn't help but say. Li Xian turned around and looked with surprise at Xiaorong Shixiang. It seemed that Shixiang cared very much about Mo Cloud Sea. The bodies of the Xin battalion soldiers inflated like balloons. Their muscles became thick and strong at a stunning rate, their bodies multiplying in size, their Shen equipment broken apart. Scales grew out of their hands, some had horns growing out of their heads, some had sickled tails, some had spines growing from their backs. Everyone who saw this inhaled in shock. Mo physique. Each member of Xin battalion had a Mo physique. Only now did people remember Xin battalion's origins. They had been Mo hostages that Xian Kong Temple had captured from all places and made from the elite among them. The blow of this scene was even greater to Mo battle generals. This was the first time they saw everyone in a battalion have Mo physiques. Seeing the flowing light on the bodies of Xin battalion, they were stunned. While they had entered the era of Shen power and Mo physique was not as valuable as in the past, it was still a shock when every person in a battalion had a Mo physique. Those smarter found that the Mo physiques of Xin battalion soldiers clearly had traces of Shen power. The inscription skill of Mo Cloud Sea was famed in the world. Adding on Mo Cloud Sea's study of Shen power, this was actually normal. Trap. This was a trap. The personages that watched this fight felt cold creep up their backs. Bi Han was so devious. So cold-blooded. To lure Shang Yusheng into the battle, he had sacrificed half of Xin battalion. This was a person who could do anything for victory, this was a terrifying battle general that was cold and ruthless. The strong pressure came like a mountain to cover the entire battlefield. The balance immediately had tilted to Bi Han's side. Xin battalion's Mo physiques were not just Mo physique. Their attacks became even stronger. The battle formation with Shen power added was unstoppable. The Xin battalion soldiers started to fight head-on. Their attacks became ferocious. In a blink, almost all of Hai Jin Yun's battalion was gone. Is this your trump card? Shang Yusheng's eyes flashed and a cold smile floated at the corner of his lips. He had expected long ago that Bi Han definitely had other cards up his sleeve. Otherwise, planning to fight 1 against 2 was a joke. Looking at Xin battalion that had immediately multiplied in their ferocity, Shang Yusheng's gaze was admiring. Mo Cloud Sea's inscription skill lived up to the rumors. However, this stopped here. Shang Yusheng's gaze locked onto Bi Han that flickered in and out of view among the Xin battalion fighters. He was like an experienced hunter that stared at his prey that was about to fall into the trap. He had always felt great confidence in this battle because he found long ago that Bi Han's Xin battalion that caused people to lose their guts at the name had a nondescript weakness. This nondescript weakness would not show up usually, but in battles of this level, it was enough to be fatal. Xin battalion did not have a top-level fighter. Usually, the powerful Xin battalion was enough to protect Bi Han. Yet now, Xin battalion only had half of its members left. The strong defensive net was filled with holes even though the Xin battalion soldiers had become more powerful. Shang Yusheng had been constantly searching for a time to give a fatal blow. When Bi Han's last trump card was revealed, he didn't hesitate any longer. With a long roar, the space around him suddenly boiled, his hair dancing like a swarm of snakes. Power gathered towards him like a tide. The boiling space around him was like a bottomless monster that greedily sucked in the flood of power the battalion channeled towards him. Everyone was stunned by this sudden change. Even Hai Jin Yun, who had been fighting hard, was stunned. Almost everyone thought that Shang Yusheng was a rare control-type Mo battle general. Even Hai Jin Yun thought this. Who would have thought that Shang Yusheng had hit his strength? He was also a classical Mo battle general with outstanding individual strength. Shang Yusheng's face flashed with eerie light, his eyes flashing. He found a hidden pathway crisscrossing through Xin battalion's ranks. His presence reached a peak. With a roar of laughter, he headed straight towards Bi Han like a blade. Sin Battalion members along the way leapt at Shang Yusheng. Yet before they could go near, they were thrown back out into the air. Everyone knew Bihan was finished. At this time, a red-colored raiment appeared on Bihan's body. He turned his face as though he felt it. In the grey-white eyes of every Sin Battalion member, a thread of furious dark red flame jumped at the same time. Chapter 785, Bihan Shang Yusheng felt a stirring suddenly rise. He raised his head in shock and saw a scene that he would never forget. Ball of flame flew out of the bodies of Sin Battalion to rise into the sky like blooming flowers. In this moment, thousands of balls of flame filled his vision. They seemed to slowly fly towards Bihan dressed in red armor. The red armor on Bihan suddenly lit up with profound and complex scripts. In a blink, the flames in the sky entered Bihan's red armor. An angry red mark appeared on Bihan's forehead. The red armor moved as though it was alive, feathers shaped like tongues of flame growing at a stunning rate on the red armor. Bihan's face, neck and other exposed body parts were filled with many icy blue scripts. Those were the Jinji that had been placed back at Xian Kong Temple. The icy blue and the furious red formed a breathtaking scene filled with stunning beauty. Some with keener eyes noticed the changes in Bihan under the red armor. While Bihan's figure had not changed greatly, there were some tiny changes. Shang Yusheng also found these changes. Suddenly, he thought of Sin Battalion's change just now and his expression changed drastically. Xue Dong did not disguise the shock he felt. He stared hard at the flaming red armor that Bihan wore, uncontrollable desire showing in his eyes. He murmured to himself, Shen device raiment. A battle general Shen device raiment. Lin Qian was similarly shocked. I hadn't thought that Mo Cloud Sea would give their first Shen device raiment to Bihan. Great courage. Great vision. He had to admit Suo Mo's strength. Mo Cloud Sea's first Shen device was given to Bihan. A battle general Shen device raiment, this was the first one. Suo Mo's choices were always unlike other people. When all the other powers chose to forge Shen device raiments for the strongest member of their faction, he gave the Shen device to outfit a battle general. A seemingly daring choice was of great and crucial effect at this moment. People could not understand why Mo Lin Qian had a strong feeling of danger. The Mo Cloud Sea led by Zhua Mo was definitely the biggest enemy to Kunlun other than Tian Huan. Wait. Lin Qian suddenly thought of something and his expression changed slightly. Bihan is a Mo. Xue Dong stilled. When he reacted, his expression changed minutely as well. Bihan was a Mo. No one would have thought that this information that everyone knew was now the deciding factor in this battle. Bihan was a Mo. He grew up in Xian Kong Temple, and due to his outstanding talent, he was put in charge of Sin Battalion. Bihan was a rare Mo who used Shouja methods as a battle general. At this time, everyone understood this detail they had missed was so crucial. Sin Battalion could be modified to have Mo physiques, what about Bihan? From a famed family, Bihan had an outstanding bloodline. Mo Cloud Sea's inscription art had the power to express the power in his bloodline. Bihan, whose bloodline power had been uncovered, would skyrocket in individual power. His individual strength could probably match those of normal gold Mo battle generals. Yet this was not the most terrifying thing. More terrifying was that this meant Bihan could learn Mo fighting tactics. Bihan would become a battle general that could use Mo and Shouja methods. For a battle general of Bihan's level, any extra variation in tactics meant that he was that much more adaptable. His strength and the danger he posed would increase drastically. And a whole other method of fighting? No one knew. Because this had never happened before. There had never been a battle general of Bihan's level that had skill in two styles. Sin Battalion, this wondrous battalion, gave Bihan great help because Sin Battalion was made out of Mo. Bihan and Sin Battalion were perfectly matched. This meant that Bi-Han could command Sin Battalion to realize two completely different ways of fighting. It would be a headache even if it was a normal battle general that could do this. And if it was a top battle general like Bi-Han, how great would the advantage be? Many people didn't even dare to think. Lin Qian knew that with Sua Mo's personality, he definitely would not ignore Bi-Han's advantage. Bi-Han's Shen device raiment would have been forged with this in mind. This Shen device raiment. The suddenly change caught Shang Yusheng off guard. However, after the initial panic, he quickly calmed down. His expression became calm again even though the presence that Bi-Han gave off now immediately suppressed his. Yet Shang Yusheng's mind was unusually calm. He was patient. He had cultivated his individual strength yet never showed it for many years. He practiced control-type tactics but he still did all he could to make up for his shortcoming. He never stopped perfecting himself. The hard practice and sweat of many days and months caused his mind to be as strong as stone. He knew that at this point, it was proven that Bi-Han was more outstanding him. Both sides had played their cards and Bi-Han's hand was better. He had been mistaken. Yet he could not retreat now. Other than fighting with his back to the wall, he did not have any other choice. Their battalions were entangled together and if he retreated at this time, there would only be one result. They would all be killed. Shang Yusheng's gaze burned with fighting spirit. The pride and bravery all Mo battle generals had made him fearless. Since everyone's trump card was played, then what was left was to fight. The possibility that he could win this fight was very small, but even if not for victory, he had enough reason to fight, for his pride. For his battalion. He was Shang Yusheng. Shang Yusheng's expression was calm as he fearless burned the power inside. No one knew that his tongue had been bitten to pieces in his mouth. Vast Shen power accompanied by the thick tang of blood flowed like lava through his body. Standing with his hands by his side, Shang Yusheng's presence skyrocketed. The rising presence and his fearless intent to fight to the death filled every corner of the battlefield. Even the people watching from the mirages changed expression. The Mo under Shang Yusheng's command seemed to be struck by lightning. These men that seemed to be made from steel looked dazedly at the sky, at that proud and decisive Shang Yusheng shining. That was their commander that gave them glory and hope. Tears rolled down the upraised faces. Darren! Numerous angry shouts and grieving wails sounded from the battlefield. They knew that Darren intended to fight to the death. Suddenly, Mo Marshal wiped away his tears and shouted. Fight with Darren. Suddenly, blood sprouted out of his body in a dozen places, the light surrounding him multiplying in intensity. Frantic power raged inside his body. He grunted, but did not waver. In order to create the image that he was a control type, Shang Yusheng had a Mo Marshal in his battalion that had lead the attacks in his place. Fight with Darren. Fight with Darren. Blood spurted, shouts and blinding balls of light rising. Each ball of light was like a furious flame that burning with anything left behind, life burned to create Shen power. Burning their lives for that commander in the sky that gave them glory and hope. Light rose from the burning Mo soldiers and flew towards Shang Yusheng in the sky. The power inside Shang Yusheng increased at a stunning rate. He looked down at the quickly dimming balls of light under him. The figure of the Mo soldiers that fell to their deaths after offering him all of their power. Tears blurred his vision. Suddenly, an angry shout rang over the battlefield. It was Hai Jin Yun. Countless furious flows of air spun rapidly around his body. He was like a blinding meteor that howled as he shot towards Bi-Han like a moth to a flame. Shang Yusheng's heart felt a stab of pain. Bi-Han opened his eyes again. Facing Hai Jin Yun charging at him, he was expressionless. Yet the armor he wore, arsonist, was like a burning flame. The two opposite presences of coolness and fire wondrously merged into one. He was like a piece of ice wrapped in furious flames. He coolly pointed and stabbed towards Hai Jin Yun flying towards him. Pop! A deep beat seemed to explode in people's minds. The ground also shook. The space in front of Bihan seemed to be an invisible wall that rippled. Hai Jin-yun seemed to be hit by an invisible hammer head-on. Before he could make any adjustments, Hai Jin-yu exploded like a ball of fire. The light around him was shattered, turning into fragments that disappeared into the air. Hai Jin-yun fell from the sky without any signs of life. Everyone in watching the mirages was intimidated. Their expressions changed. The hard battle before had proved that Hai Jin-yun had the strength of a top battle general. Yet the death of a top battle general was so simple. How could people not be intimidated? Kuan Luan and Tian Huan felt as though there was a dagger at their backs. Bihan was so powerful. Bihan did not have any joy on his expression. Hai Jin-yun was at the end of his rope, his battalion completely gone, his energy spent. For Mo battle generals, the battalion was the source of their strength. If the battalion was strong, the battle general would be stronger. There wasn't even 20% of Hai Jin-yun battalion left. All of them were tired and void of power. The power that they could gather on Hai Jin-yun was almost insignificant. In order to realize this goal, Sin Battalion had made a great sacrifice. Using up Hai Jin-yun's power, producing the illusion of a hard-fought battle, luring Shang Yusheng into the fight, all of that had come at the expense of Sin Battalion's sacrifices. Bihan had not expected that Shang Yusheng was also skilled in traditional Mo fighting methods. He had originally planned to use his individual strength to make a surprise move and ambush him. If he could kill Shang Yusheng, he would win. He hadn't expected Shang Yusheng to be so strong. More importantly, Shang Yusheng's battalion was almost completely untouched. Yet Shang Yusheng was able to immediately understand the situation after detecting Bihan's threat, advancing instead of retreating for a fight to the death. Such a powerful opponent. Bihan's cold eyes filled with fighting spirit. Chapter 786, Arsonist. The two burning balls of light, the two battle generals faced off in the sky. Bihan's aura gave off furious red flames, Shang Yusheng's aura gave off deep blue waves. This battle had progressed unexpectedly to all, Bihan and Shang Yusheng being the greatest surprises. Bihan was ranked 10th of the top battle generals in the Xiuzhou world. No one would underestimate his strength. Yet Sin Battalion's changes, and Bihan's Mo fighting method, as well as the angry flaming, arsonist, he wore was a great shock to people. Just as people thought that Bihan's last trump card was played, Bihan would then play another, each a better card. Shang Yusheng's strength had been underestimated until now. His display up to this point was outstanding. He definitely had the strength of a top battle general. The reason that he was in such a sorry state was just because he fought Bihan. He was in a sorry state, but it did not mean that he did not have a chance. Bihan had the advantage, but this did not mean that he had victory in his grasp. The final battle. Shang Yusheng was the first to act. His figure flashed and he appeared near Bihan. Blinding blue energies vented out and seemed as though they were about to drown Bihan. Bihan seemed to have expected this and reached out with a swat of his hand. The red energy of his hand formed an enormous flaming hand that slammed against the blue flood. Boom! Countless fragments of energy swirled and fell from the sky, raining down to the ground. The two were fast like bolts of lightning, red and blue. They continued to collide at a speed hard to follow with the naked eye. They would immediately separate after each collision. Boom boom boom. The ear-deafening explosions were like thunder. Sparks would fly each time the two met. Sprays of dazzling red and blue energies shot into the sky. Such great power. Li Xian Air couldn't resist sighing in shock. The two people in the mirage were inhuman. They were like two meteors crashing into each other repeatedly. The Mo battle generals that gathered the power of the entire battalion were so strong they outshone all experts. She had seen Mo battle generals before, and Mo fighting was like this. However, the power coming from these two people still shocked her. As one of the strongest of Tian Huan, she was individually strong, but she still felt intimidated by the strength the two displayed. So battle generals could be this strong. Gongye Xiaorong's expression was grave. In terms of savagery, the fighting of the Mo is first. However, the strength of these two is rare even among the Mo. In the mirage, the attacking rhythm of the two accelerated. It was so fast one could only see a red and blue bolt of lightning flashing across the sky. Li Xian made a soft sound of surprise. They are improving. Improving? Gongye Xiaorong stilled. Yes, both of them are improving. Li Xian was powerful and she could see the changes in this level of battle more clearly. Gongye Xiaorong quickly understood. They are adjusting to this kind of fighting. Both Bihan and Shang Yuxing do not usually fight like this. After this battle, Bihan will be more terrifying. The Mo Martial Alliance has suffered great losses this time with the death of two top battle generals at once. Even we would not be able to afford such a price. Tian Huan and the Mo Martial Alliance were on good terms. While there was no open relations, there was close contact in secret. Gongzi she still felt great affection for Li Xian, but the present Li Xian was not the Li Xian from when they had first met. Li Xian was now one of the core members of Tian Huan. She didn't need to help Tian Huan through a method like a marriage alliance. Li Xian thought and then said, Mo Cloud C's losses this time are also heavy. After this fight, Sin Battalion loses at least half their numbers. It is worth it to use half of Sin Battalion in exchange for two top battle generals, Gongye Xiaorong said without hesitation. Li Xian suddenly thought of a problem. Sin Battalion is a strange battalion. If there are losses, how is it supposed to be replenished? Gongye Xiaorong stilled and then had an expression of joy. Yes. Sin Battalion cannot be replenished, it is pretty much crippled now. Even if Bihan has the Shin device raiment, he cannot make another Sin Battalion. Without Sin Battalion, Bihan's strength is greatly reduced. Bihan's fighting method means that only a strange battalion like Sin Battalion is suitable for him. In other words, does this mean that Mo Cloud C did not have any gains? Li Xian expression was puzzled. Then why did they start this campaign? Also, wouldn't Bihan think of this problem? Gongye Xiaorong's smile froze on his face. They definitely have ways to replenish Sin Battalion. Lin Qian's tone was full of confidence. The attention he paid towards Mo and his understanding of the other far surpassed other people. In his impression, Mo definitely would not approve a plan that resulted in such a loss. Xue Dong frowned. Would they dare to capture Mo to reforge Sin Battalion? That is something taboo. If it is discovered, there will be endless consequences. Mo Cloud C has so many Mo, they definitely cannot accept such a matter. Not that. Lin Qian shook his head. In my understanding, Mo definitely would not make such a fatal mistake. He definitely has other methods. Other methods? Xue Dong had a curious expression. He was strong in war, but he understood very little of these things. I don't know. Lin Qian shook his head honestly. But I know that they definitely have a way. If that's true, then Bihan is terrifying. Xue Dong looked at the mirage, brimming with fighting spirit. It was so enjoyable to watch a battle of this level. How great would it be if he was participating in this battle? Bihan and Shang Yuxing's fighting reached a white-hot level. The two maintained their furious pace as though they did not know exhaustion. They abandoned all finesse, and would collide fully each time. They had continued to attack at such a mad tempo for 4 whole hours. People could not see their figures clearly. There was only the endless explosion and eruptions of light. The scouts watching from far had ashen expressions. For safety, they had already retreated far away, but they could still feel the tremors of the ground and the shockwaves of air. Two freaks. Everyone was filled with terror. It was the first time Bihan was using this fighting method in actual battle. The enjoyable feeling made his blood almost boil. Without any technique, without any thoughts, only the simplest and crudest collisions. The arsonist was like a burning flame that continued to stimulate the Shen power inside him. His Shen power became even hotter. It turned into explosive flames when it was channeled into the arsonist. It flowed along the armor and became even hotter. Then it would gather on Bihan's hands and turn into attacks. This was the arsonist that Wuxia Mo had designed for Bihan. Wuxia Mo's thinking had been simple. The abilities of arsonist were also simple. It would burn Bihan's Shen power and amplify it to be even more furious, increasing its strength. Bihan was not truly a top expert. His power came from his battalion. Exquisite Shen techniques were not of great value to Bihan. He only needed to use the simplest and most straightforward attacking methods. There was only one aim. For him to have enough power to deal a fatal attack at the crucial moment. The burning Shen power was unusually savage and most suited for such simple and straightforward attacks. Yet furious Shen power demanded greatly of one's mental resilience. Bihan's almost obsessive absolute calm was the best for using arsonist. When equipment was at the Shen device raiment level, even the simplest of abilities would become unusually terrifying in strength. Arsonist was like its name, furious and rebellious. Only Bihan could control it. Bihan's almost obsessive calm showed its power. Even in such a high attacking tempo, and when his body felt as though it was burning, he still detected that Shang Yuxing's attacks were slowly weakening. Without any hesitation, Bihan increased his attacking rhythm again. In this kind of battle, there was no room to dodge. Other than attack, there was no other choice. When Bihan sped up his attack rate, Shang Yuxing had to increase as well. The collisions of the two became even stronger. There were already experts watching the mirages that detected the battle was reaching its end. They unconsciously straightened. The collisions that abandoned all technique were crude and direct. If one side could not keep up, the momentum would quickly tilt. Shang Yuxing's speed clearly slowed down. The light around him grew much dimmer. His Shen equipment was already in pieces. The skin exposed to the air was filled with small wounds. Bihan's attacks became even stronger. He bombarded Shang Yuxing from different angles and Shang Yuxing quickly seemed to be wavering. With every collision, Shang Yuxing's ball of light would tremble and grow a fraction dimmer. When it reached this moment, anyone with eyes could see that victory and defeat had been determined. A cold light flashed through Bihan's eyes, and his speed increased again. Completely unable to keep up with the rhythm, Shang Yuxing seemed to be hit head-on by a meteor. Boom! The blue energies flew. Shang Yuxing smashed into the ground and created a large crater in the ground. Bihan flew into the large crater like a streak of fire. When Bihan's fiery figure appeared in the sky again, there was a person gripped in his hand. Shang Yuxing was dead. His expression before death was calm. In front of the mirages, everyone lost the interest in talking. Seeing two top battle generals fall in such a short span of time was a great blow to everyone. Bihan silently floated in the air. The bright red flames wrapped around his body, but his eyes were so cold they were still. After making sure that Shang Yuxing was dead, he once again landed beside the crater and placed Shang Yuxing's body into the crater. His hands waved lightly towards the sides of the crater and the earth on the two sides of the crater exploded. Soil rained down and buried Shang Yuxing. After doing all this, Bihan stood and looked towards the battlefield. There was less than half of Xin battalion standing on the battlefield. Bihan suddenly reached out with his right hand. Countless wisps of flame flew out and landed on the corpses of Xin battalion members on the ground. In a flash, the corpses turned to dust. There was a red bead within each mound of dust. Bihan beckoned with his hand. The red beads in the mounds of ash seemed to receive a summons, flying into his hands and disappearing. After cleaning up, Bi-Han suddenly looked around to the edge of the battlefield. His cold eyes caused everyone in front of the mirages to feel great killing intent. He suddenly made a gesture that no one had expected. Looking coldly into the mirage, he raised his hand and drew a finger lightly over his neck. A throat slash. Chapter 787, The Anger of Lotus Sutra Temple. Bi-Han fought 1 against 2 and had killed top 2 battle generals, Hai Jinyun and Shang Yusheng, by trading for the lives of half of Xin Battalion. The world shook. Even Xue Dong, that was ranked first among Xiuzha battle generals, had never had such glorious results. Bi-Han's last cold and domineering gesture caused numerous hot-blooded youths to copy him. Mo Cloud C's powerful strength once again attracted the attention of the world. Bi-Han could only be considered second in Mo Cloud C. People's opinions of him were far lower than Gongsun Cha. This could be seen from the rankings. Yet after this battle, everyone saw Bi-Han in a completely new light. His moves had become more varied and well-rounded. He had 2 fighting styles. This kind of Bi-Han posed a much greater threat. Bi-Han had commanded the entire campaign. From the starting setup to the final battle with its layers, Bi-Han displayed his stunning talent. In people's previous opinions, Bi-Han was strong, but he was lacking greatly compared to Gongsun Cha, especially in his planning. Right now, no one would think this. What people feared even more was Bi-Han's coldness, a cold-blooded ruthlessness. For victory, he could do anything. In the minds of many people, Bi-Han had become a cold-blooded battle general. His challenging throat slash at the end made people feel a wave of murderousness. Mo Cloud C's enemies felt a blade at their backs. However, unexpectedly, Bi-Han's ranking did not rise greatly. This was because of Xin Battalion's large number of casualties. This number of fatalities was a great injury to any battalion, much less a battalion like Xin Battalion that could not be replenished. Through this battle, Bi-Han proved his great individual strength. The Shin device raiment also was revealed. The infamy of arsonist spread through the world. Just by the results of this battle was enough for him to go forward a few places in the rankings. Yet everyone also knew that Bi-Han's strength had weakened rather than increased. Bi-Han was skilled in 2 fighting styles, and Xin Battalion was the only one that could channel his full power. But Xin Battalion could not be replenished. If there was fighting, there would be fatalities. With result of not having any replenishment meant that Xin Battalion fighters would grow fewer in number, and the battalion was weaker. Bi-Han would become weaker as a result. Right now was Bi-Han's weakest moment. But even so, Mo Cloud C's great power alarmed people. The second strongest battle general of Mo Cloud C, Bi-Han, was already so terrifying. Then the one called the top battle general, Gongsun Cha, how strong was he? This shocking campaign had too many things worthy of discussion, and many people forgot about identifying why Mo Cloud C had started this campaign. But inside Mo Cloud C, the higher ranks understood with 100 energy Jia in hand, they now had wings. News of Bi-Han's victory quickly reached Swa. Mo. Little Mo Gu was excited and wanted to howl into the sky. 100 energy Jia. Shin crystals. They were rich. Thinking about returning and laying in the mountains of Shin crystals, that would definitely be the best experience in life. Tycoons. You are still playing with Jingshi, Ji has started playing Shin crystals. Unusually content, Swa Mo's spirit rose. He was filled with anticipation towards the trip to the ancient ruins about to begin. At this time, the sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple hurriedly rushed in. When Zuoyamo noticed the grief on the face of the Lotus Sutra Temple sect leader, and on the faces of the disciples around her, he knew that something happened. He hurriedly asked, "What happened?" "Just now, Yuan Tong Shixiang of Surangama Heart sect perished." The eyes of Lotus Sutra Temple's sect leader was slightly swollen. She had clearly cried just now. The White Lotus Reverend explained, Yuan Tong Shishu and Master had a good relationship. However, just now, someone attempted an assassination and he unfortunately was killed. He glanced at Zuomo and said, the token of Surangama heart sect was with Yuan Tong Shishu. Zuomo's heart sank. Did they come for the token? The token is gone. The White Lotus Reverend nodded with murderousness on his face. Only a small few knew that the token of Surangama heart sect was with Shishu. Even Master did not know. There definitely are spies in Surangama heart sect. Did you find who did it? Zuomo asked. The situation was more complex than he had imagined. The ruins had not opened yet, the killing had started. It's Kunlun. The eyes of the Lotus Sutra Temple sect leader flashed. She said hatefully, while they have disguised it well, but they did not know that Shi Xiang has an ability called, empty heart thought. Usually, he would leave behind a thread of his consciousness in the Dhyana Tower when he cultivates. If not for this thread of consciousness, we would not have discovered it. Kunlun. Zuomo's expression became serious. He hadn't thought that Kunlun wanted the Shin device nucleus so desperately. Zuomo immediately recognized the severity of the situation. It probably wasn't just one Kunlun Shioja that would enter the ancient ruins, and these people were well concealed. If they were the least bit careless, they would easily fall for the trap. At this moment, the lotus flower at the forehead of the sect leader lit up minutely. Her expression changed. She closed her eyes and focused while breathing calmly. When she opened her eyes again, her face was murderousness. Yuan Hao was attacked on his return trip. Good, very good. The sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple was clearly angered greatly. If she could maintain her calm at Yuan Tong's death, then Yang Yuan Hao being ambushed enraged her. Yang Yuan Hao wasn't just related to the future of the 9 great Dhyana sects, he was also her nephew. The location where he had been ambushed was in her territory. The other was arrogant and unscrupulous to the limit. They really think that Lotus Sutra Temple is easy to bully. She was a sect leader however, and quickly calmed down. However, the darkness in her eyes grew. She bowed and warned Zuomo and the others, I have come to remind everyone to pay attention to your safety and be careful. Finishing, she turned and left with her disciples. This was Lotus Sutra Temple's territory. They had lived here for thousands of years, and the depth of their foundation far surpassed people's imagination. When all of Lotus Sutra Temple moved, several groups of suspicious people quickly came to the surface. Truly angered, Lotus Sutra Temple clearly did not intend to maintain the illusion of peace. Also, the sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple knew that her one sect did not have the power to fight against these disciples of Tian Huan and Kunlun. The death of Yuan Tong stirred the 9 great Dhyana sects into facing a common enemy. Under the leadership of Lotus Sutra Temple's sect leader, Thunder Sound Temple, Karma Temple, Surangama Temple, Laughing Maitreya Temple and the others sent their outstanding disciples to reinforce Lotus Sutra Temple. Troops made from 300 elite disciples carried out ambushes during the night. These Kunlun and Tian Huan disciples hidden in the shadows hadn't expected that the others would dare to come to their door. They hurried to respond. The disciples of Kunlun and Tian Huan were stronger, but the disciples of the 9 great Dhyana sects had the advantage of numbers. The fighting was intense. Both sides suffered great losses. Of the 4 reverends of Lotus Sutra Temple, 1 was killed and 2 wounded. The other sects also received heavy losses. More than half of the 300 disciples were dead or wounded. Kunlun and Tian Huan also had heavy losses. Many of the hidden disciples were plucked out. The 9 great Dhyana sects had the advantage. Even though the Kunlun and Tian Huan disciples were stronger, there was no advantage when they were outnumbered in melee combat. Other than several powerful disciples that broke through, the other disciples were all killed. In the end, they found more than 60 corpses of people from Kunlun and Tian Huan. The restless area around the ruins immediately became much quieter. Chao Xin had an expression of pain. Stupid. One Shin device nucleus ruined this great situation. Now, our previous plan cannot be used. The 9 Great Diana sect is going to be more united after this fight. Lin Qian had a grimace. This matter is my mistake. Previously, the value of one Shin device raiment could not compare to a greatly beneficial strategy against the 9 Great Diana sect. But since Bihan's arsonist appeared, a completely new concept of battle general Shin device raiment, every sect increased their value of the nucleus. Suddenly, every faction's desire toward Shin device raiments increased drastically. Lin Qian regretted greatly that the first Shin device raiment of Kunlun had been given to him. With his strength and status, there was nothing to criticize that he possess a Shin device raiment. However, he would not fight on the front lines, and the Shin device raiment was not of much strategic value. For Kunlun and the others, Shin device raiments were strategic treasures. Since they were of strategic value, they actually would not be easily used. For example, Lin Qian. He had the Shin device raiment. While he would rarely meet someone that was a match for him, he was not invulnerable. If he was swarmed by many, he would also die. Kunlun could not tolerate this kind of loss. Yet Mo Cloud C's Battle General Shin device raiment was designed around a completely different concept. Battle generals of Bihan's level were heavily protected and had many experts around him. After being outfitted with the Shin device raiment, he was even stronger, and he was able to increase the strength of the entire battalion. Both were Shin device raiments, yet it was clear which had greater use. Kunlun and Tian Huan were inspired and had an even greater desire for Shin device raiments. However, even with their wealth, it was not an easy matter to forge a new Shin device raiment. The attraction of a complete Shin device nucleus for Kunlun could be imagined. Also, Kunlun did not think anything of the 9 Great Diana sects. That was not just the sects within the lower ranks. Actually, Lin Qian knew that he thought the same inside. In his eyes, the biggest enemy was Tian Huan, the most dangerous enemy was Mo Cloud C. Other than Yang Yuanhao, the 9 Great Diana sects were not worth a mention. This was the same with the other Kunlun disciples. They might be wary of Xian Kong Temple, but Lotus Sutra Temple, what was that? Lin Qian was a responsible person. He knew that he held great blame this time, and immediately admitted his mistake. Chao Xin sighed inside. Lin Qian had already given him enough face by admitting to his mistake. He thought and said, this may not be a bad thing. How so? Lin Qian was an open-minded and humble person. Lotus Sutra Temple led the way, then we will make an example of Lotus Sutra Temple. Chao Xin's eyes flashed. There are many conflicts between the 9 Great Diana sects, and they all want different things. We can use this matter to single out Lotus Sutra Temple, and no other sections. Lin Qian's eyes lit up. Great plan. This matter was a great excuse. If they put out a strong attitude of only making trouble for Lotus Sutra Temple, what would the other sects do? This was something to think over. Within the 9 Great Diana sects there were numerous conflicts between themselves. No one was willing to provoke an enemy like Kunlun. Adding on the spies fanning the flames from the shadows. Chapter 788, Divide, Congratulations for finishing the exam. Sangling Shui looked at Yu Qinlai who stood in front of her with an expressionless face. She was filled with terror. This youth that was just a bit older than she was the manifestation of a demon. Beside her was another female about 30 years old. Her appearance was ordinary and her attire simple. If she was not standing beside Sangling Shui would think that she was a servant girl. Yu Qinlai looked at the two and said to himself expressionlessly, you two had the best results. Starting from today, you will each become responsible for them. Each? Sangling Shui perceptively caught the crux of Yu Qinlai's words. Yu Qinlai nodded. Yes, 20 people in total. They will be divided to 2 teams, 10 on each team. You will each be responsible for a team. Sanling Shui, Hong Xiao, you will be competitors. Your status will be determined by your results. Sanling Shui and Hong Xiao turned their faces at the same moment and their gazes met. With a short glance, Sanling Shui could see experience flashing in Hong Xiao's eyes. Her heart trembled. However, she was filled with confidence in herself and did not fear competition. You will be sent to a completely new place. There, you will start your work. Your family, clansmen, they will meet up with you in 3 months. Good luck. The 9 Great Dhyana sects was in chaos. Kunlun's force pointed directly at Lotus Sutra Temple and they informed all the sects that their target was only Lotus Sutra Temple. They requested that Lotus Sutra Temple produce the criminals that killed the Kunlun disciples and for the other sects to remain neutral. Thunder Sound Temple, Karma Temple, Laughing Maitreya Temple, and Surangama Temple immediately expressed their support for Lotus Sutra Temple. They started to move their battalions. Yang Yuan Hai announced that he had been the subject of an ambush and accused Kunlun of planning it. The situation immediately became a powder keg. Great Buddha Temple, Karma Temple, Skanda Temple and Heart Leaf Dhyana sect did not make a sound. Inside the 9 Great Dhyana sects, all kinds of rumors quickly spread. Many people thought that Lotus Sutra Temple had caused this incident and should resolve it themselves rather than drag everyone down. The divides in the 9 Great Dhyana sect finally appeared in public. Kunlun's immediately response seemed to say that Lotus Sutra Temple's actions this time truly angered them. Shui Dong Battalion moved out and pointed straight at Thunder Sound Temple. The 9 Great Dhyana sects became nervous. Yang Yuanhao's battalion completely moved, and guarded against Shui Dong Battalion's advance. In the time of a day, the situation changed so quickly people could not keep up. The face-off between the 2 top battle generals immediately attracted the eyes of the world. Shui Dong was the best battle general in the world. He was well-rounded, had strategic vision, and had never lost. Shui Dong, who was born in Kunlun, had always been the most accomplished battle general among the Kunlun disciples from childhood. Yang Yuanhao was a new talent but his strength was also stunning. He was ranked 5th, just below Gongsun Cha. In the great banquet to divide Xian Kong Temple, Yang Yuanhao showed his outstanding talent. If not for him, the present 9 Great Dhyana sect probably could not stop the advance of Kunlun and Tianhuan. Just now, Bihan had killed 2 top battle generals by himself and stunned the world. The importance of the conflict in front of them rivaled Bihan's battle. Kunlun seemed determined to destroy Lotus Sutra Temple. Then Mu Xian Battalion started to advance towards Lotus Sutra Temple. Mu Xian was the only female battle general in the top 10 of the Xiuzha battle generals. She was ranked 8th. She was much older than Shui Dong, and experienced. Even in Kunlun, not many dared to provoke her. Compared to Shui Dong's light, Mu Xian was much more low-key and people rarely knew of her accomplishments. No one knew why her ranking was so high. However, no one doubted her abilities but she was one of the rare elders that did not decrease in status after Lin Qian ascended and had become even more important. Lin Qian's eyes were usually very accurate. It was a shock to people that the usually low-key Mu Xian moved. Yang Yuanhao could not divide himself. Shui Dong was enough to keep him engaged and he did not dare to move. He could only watch as Mu Xian moved closer to Lotus Sutra Temple. 2 top battle generals attacked at the same time. In this time, Lotus Sutra Temple was in great danger. Yet another battalion suddenly appeared at Lotus Sutra Temple and shocked the world. Gongsun Cha. Vermilion Bird Camp. The top battle general of Mo Cloud Sea with the strongest battalion of Mo Cloud Sea appeared in Lotus Sutra Temple's territory without any warning. When the news came out, everyone that paid attention to this battle finally understood. No wonder Lotus Sutra Temple dared to challenge Kunlun. So Mo Cloud C was supporting them. However, no one dared to dismiss the name of Gongsun Lil Mississippi. Almost the moment Gongsun Lil Miss Vermilion Bird Camp arrived at Lotus Sutra Temple, Mu Xian's battalion stopped advancing. The situation seemed to enter a standoff again, Yang Yuan Hao against Shui Dong, Gongsun Cha against Mu Xian. For top battle generals ranked in the top 10 facing off gave off a suffocating pressure. The entire world became nervous. If the conflict between Kunlun and Lotus Sutra Temple was a simple conflict before, then Mo Cloud C with the 5 sects of the 9 Great Dhyana sect had even strength to fight Kunlun. If the two sides really fought, the scale of the conflict would be so great it would most likely affect the entire world. Tian Huan seemed unwilling to be silent. The battalions at the borders shifted as though they wanted to fan the flames. However, they never expected that Zhong De's battalion would suddenly appear at the border of Shixian and Tian Huan. All of Tian Huan became nervous. What did Zhong De want to do? In terms of power, Shixian could not compare to Tian Huan now. However, Zhong De was not a reasonable person. He was powerful, among the top 1 or 2 of the top 10 battle generals. The situation came to a standstill again. Sui Mo had been paying close attention to the situation. He had ordered Gongsun Cha to reinforce Lotus Sutra Temple. Lotus Sutra Temple was his ally. If it was killed by Kunlun, it would be a detriment to him. Sui Mo didn't believe that Kunlun would truly fight after Gongsun Cha appeared. If a war of such scale started, it would not end so easily. Even if Kunlun could defeat them, they would suffer heavy losses that would benefit Tian Huan. Kunlun just wanted to cause a rift between the 9 Great Dhyana sects and had achieved their goal. Heartleaf Dhyana sect and the other 3 sects' silence had planted the seeds of the divide. Fighting now was not of any benefit to Kunlun. It was not good for Sui Mo to interfere too deeply into the matters of the 9 Great Dhyana sects. However, after this matter, the relationship between Lotus Sutra Temple and Mo Cloud C would grow much closer. The sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple was a vicious person. Since they had burned their ties to Kunlun, without another word, she sent a battalion into the region of the ruins and repeatedly made sweeps. Any person that was the least bit suspicious would be asked to leave. While Lotus Sutra Temple's battalion was lacking in comparison to a top battalion such as Vermilion Bird Camp, it was much stronger than an average sect's battalion. The enormous battalion swept through the region of the ruins like comb. If any person resisted, they would be killed. After this, the number of people around the ruins decreased immediately. Everyone saw Lotus Sutra Temple's determination. Did Lotus Sutra Temple want to take the ruins for themselves? This kind of rumor spread through the 9 Great Dhyana sects, but Lotus Sutra Temple still did as they wished. Thunder Sound Temple and other allies strangely did not have any opinions. Heartleaf Dhyana sect and the others were talkative, but Lotus Sutra Temple was determined and didn't even listen. After this matter, the sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple finally saw that the 9 Great Dhyana sects would not be as successful. Yang Yuan Hao was strong in battle, but he did not have the ability to sort out the 9 Great Dhyana sect. Without a strong person coming up, the 9 Great Dhyana sects that was made from many factions would fall to infighting. A divided 9 Great Dhyana sect would die quickly. Since that was the case, why didn't they prepare? Lotus Sutra Temple's only choice was Mo Cloud C. This time, they had completely burned ties to Kunlun and Tian Huan. Shixian was in its old age, and only Mo Cloud C was filled with life and signs that it was growing stronger. She had a good outlook for Mo Cloud C's prospects. Everyone had already agreed to using the Shin device nucleus in exchange for Shin equipment. What she was doing now was within the limits of the agreement. She was just acting a bit more vicious. Also, the safety of Lotus Sutra Temple was reliant on Gongsun Cha's Vermilion Bird Camp. There are no more factions in this area, Lotus Sutra Temple's sect leader introduced. We have eliminated some suspicious people. Please accept these tokens. This is Sui Mo was slightly shocked. The tokens of Thunder Sound Temple, my sect, Laughing Maitreya Temple, and Splendid Buddha Temple are all here. 4 in total. We had originally planned to send experts to help you, but we are worried that spies will ruin the matter. So we are giving this to you. You can take in more subordinates. We have not managed to get back Surangama sect's token. It must already be in Kuan Lun's hands. The other 4 sects. She sighed softly, her expression dispirited. The 9 great dhyana sects were of different minds and values. They had already divided into 2 factions. Yang Yuanhao's transaction with Mo Cloud Sea had been objected to by Heartleaf Dhyana sect, Karma sect, Skanda sect, and Great Buddha sect. The 2 sides had fought fiercely numerous times over this. Sui Mo understood when he heard this. He bowed seriously. Many thanks for your trust. The Shin equipment will be delivered as soon as possible. The sect leader quickly sorted out her emotions. She knew that the situation could not be fought against. The alliance of the 9 great dhyana sects had fatal weaknesses from the start. She had just always anticipated a charismatic leader would appear. However, while Yang Yuanhao was a top battle general, he did not have the traits to be a leader. Yet she found those traits in Sui Mo. To be able to command a sect as a female, she naturally had her attributes. Seeing the situation clearly, she did not hesitate. She could not save the 9 great dhyana sects, but she had to consider the lives of those in the Lotus Sutra temple. Sir, please be careful and take along more people, she cautioned. I understand. Sui Mo nodded gravely. Chapter 789, Sin Battalion. The situation had changed. Sui Mo now had 5 tokens in his possession. In other words, including himself, 25 people could enter the ruin. It seemed that their numbers had increased, but their probability of success did not increase. Previously, no one knew their identity and there was a possibility they could sneak in and obtain the treasure. However, Heartleaf Dhyana sect and the others knew of the transaction between himself and Yang Yuanhao. Lotus Sutra Temple and the others could not stop Heartleaf Dhyana sect and the other 3 temples. Everyone knew this. However, they had not broken their ties in public. If Heartleaf Dhyana sect and the others really did split with the rest of the 9 great dhyana sects at this time, then the present equilibrium would be immediately disrupted. Sui Mo and his group had been revealed, and became public targets. They were the strongest group going into the ruins, but they were also everyone's enemy. No matter who, if they wanted to get the Shin device nucleus, they had to kill Sui Mo's group. They were now everyone's enemy and surrounded by wolves. Sui Mo and the others only had one path: step over the corpses of their competitors. However, while it was more dangerous, there were also benefits. The sides were clearly defined. Other than the 25 people, everyone else was an enemy. They did not need to worry about exposing their identity and harming potential allies. Sui Mo quickly concluded that the main issue would be that once they entered the ruins, everyone would become their enemy. If they wanted the Shin device nucleus, there was only one way: kill everyone else. The people accompanying Sui Mo were all the elite of Mo Cloud Sea. Individually they were outstanding, but they were also trained and skilled in battle formations. The power of a battle formation was directly linked to the number of people in it. Usually, the smaller the number of people, the lower the threat of the battle formation posed. A battle formation composed of 20 people definitely surpassed a battle formation of 5 people. While the enemy had the advantage of numbers, they belonged to different factions. They were unlikely to cooperate, and even if they did they would not trust each other, so battle formations of larger scale were not feasible. Sui Mo did not need to worry about himself. Other than himself, Agoe, Wei Sheng, Tseng Lianer, Luo Li and the others, everyone else could advance as a part of a battle formation. Their strength might not match the carefully selected experts of other factions, but they had been trained by Lil Mississippi. Once they formed a battle formation, they were not so easily defeated. When the ancient ruins opened, if one had the token, they would be sucked into the ruins if they were close by. Zhuemo and the other entered the ruins through the mountain valley that Lotus Sutra Temple had arranged before. This mountain valley was heavily guarded by Lotus Sutra Temple to leave behind only one safe passageway. Zhuemo and the others felt their vision blur and the surrounding scenery changed. Everything in front of him was white and shrouded in mist. Under his feet were slate stones carved with ancient beasts. The mist here was strange. The mist seemed to contain all kinds of colors and a kind of indescribable power. Yet when he saw the surroundings clearly, Zhuemo's expression changed slightly. They had been split up. He only had a Gue with him. Damn it! Zhuemo immediately recognized the seriousness of the situation. They were known by everyone else, and once their forces were split up, they would be in danger. He had originally planned on using their numbers to fight their way through. The plan was unusable now. They had been split up. Undoubtedly, the people from Mo Cloud Sea were the first targets people would want to eliminate. He hurriedly used a spell unique to Mo Cloud Sea to try to communicate with the others. Yet the spell seemed to fizzle out. There was no response. His heart continued to sink. He turned to look at Ague. Without a second word, he took out 2 sets of normal Shin equipment to put them on himself and Ague, a disguise so they did not appear so eye-catching. While Zhuemo had confidence in his strength, it would be dangerous if they were attacked from all sides. Let's go. Zhuemo charged out first. The urgent matter now was to find everyone else. It was all right for he and the other Shin power experts. They should not be in too much danger. But those guards were not individually strong enough in here. Without the use of a battle formation, they were in great danger. While Zhuemo desired the Shin device raiment, he did not want to trade for it with the lives of his comrades. These people had followed him the longest and were the group he was closest to. Zhuemo and Ague quickly disappeared into the white mist. Resting Island, it was situated in a remote and unpopulated corner of Cloud Sea Jie. The island was just 300 li wide and less than 700 li long. It was a very average island among the Cloud Sea Jie islands. Before this little island did not have a name. After Bihan built his residence here, he named this island Resting Island. Resting Island was surrounded by Jinji. No one would be able to force their way in. There was only one way to enter Resting Island: transportation formations. There was a transportation formation on Resting Island. The other end of the transportation formation was Bihan's bedroom. Only Bihan would come to Resting Island. There was only a memorial hall on the island. Bihan had built the 7-story memorial hall himself. There were memorial tablets placed in the hall. The drapes swayed with the cold wind and caused this place to look eerie. Bihan held a blank memorial tablet on his left hand and held a brush on his right. He carefully wrote the names in strokes. He silently wrote. Behind him stood less than half of Sin Battalion. The ranks with their empty spaces stood silently like they were dead. When the last name was written, Bihan carefully put the memorial tablets onto their places before lighting incense. He did not bow, but stood there silently as though he was inspecting his battalion like usual. He inspected the clean ranks of memorial tablets. His expression was cold as he stared for a long. Suddenly, he said to himself, facing the memorial tablets. I don't know if your spirits will return. You are tired, sleep, I'm going ahead. He turned, and walked to the transportation formation with the remains of Sin Battalion. He returned to his residence and then to Chun Yucheng's Cloud Island to find Chun Yucheng. Chun Yucheng might be muddle-headed sometimes, but that depended on the person he was speaking to. In front of a killing god like Bihan, he was cooperative. Also, Bihan never asked him for complex tasks. More so, Zhuo Shixiang had been the one to forge those blood beads. Chun Yucheng was also very curious what the results were. Here, they are growing well. Chen Yuqing pointed to a ball of blood in the blood pool and said with a small frown, "They have started to have some of the Mo steed traits, but very preliminary." Bihan stared at the ball of blood in the blood pool without a word. The blood pools here stretched out. Inside every blood pool, a ball of blood was growing. The blood beads retained their instincts to fight, so they are aggressive. If there are 2 blood balls in a blood pool, they will fight until one dies. I had to build this many blood pools. I have to tell you first that you have to pay the expenses. Chen Yuqing chattered on. All right. Short and terse Bihan treated his words like gold. I don't know what the growth and maturation is like. I'm curious. Chen Yuqing looked around and seeing no one was around, he lowered his voice and said, I got some Shen crystals and put them in as well. Those things are very useful. However, you know, Shen crystals are rare, and I only have so many pieces. You have to repay me double. All right. Bihan suddenly asked, Shen crystals are useful? Yes, very useful. They can absorb Shen crystals. Look at these ones, the ones that have consumed Shen crystals are clearly bigger in size. Later, at Golden Crow Camp, they will be easier to forge. Let's agree, you have to pay me back double, otherwise, I will really suffer a loss. Hey, don't leave. Before Chen Yuqing finished his explanation, Bihan turned and left. I didn't say I wanted them now, why are you so murderous? Chen Yuqing looked at Bihan's back with puzzlement. A few hours later, Bihan once again appeared in front of Chen Yuqing. Whoosh, he poured out a pile of Shen crystals. Chen Yuqing's eyes went straight. My heavens! Zuemo and Ague changed their appearances to be less eye-catching. However, the mist in front of them was very strange. Whenever Zuemo decided to search the surroundings, his Shen power would encounter great resistance. This kind of situation was rare. The Shen power he cultivated was the Sun Shen power from the Sun tribe. It was so dominant that it had been one of the strongest Shen methodologies even in the ancient era. Even Sun Shen power was encountering resistance. This ruin was not simple. At this time, Silly Bird suddenly came out of Zuomo's ring. Then Lil Pagoda, Lil Fire, Lil Black, and the Black Gold Seal Soldier also streamed out of the ring. The group immediately multiplied in number and seemed much bigger. Once Silly Bird came out, her eyes glared. Red flames shot out of her body, her feathers raising up as though there was something dangerous in the surrounding white mist. Lil Pagoda looked around curiously and suddenly opened its mouth to suck in the mist. The white mist was quickly sucked into Lil Pagoda's mouth like a whale inhaling. The white and black body of Lil Pagoda became even more defined as it contrasted against the mist. It even became shinier. Was this mist something good? Zuemo knew how picky Lil Pagoda was. If it was not something good, this guy would not open his mouth. Also, Lil Pagoda seemed to be enjoying this. This mist probably was not ordinary. Did this mist have something? Without a word, Zuemo took out a jade bottle and started to move his hands in a spell. The mouth of the bottle pointed at the mist, and the mist seemed to be pulled by a strong force. It shook, but it did not fly over. Strange. Zuemo felt even stranger. The jade bottle in his hand was a magnetic bottle forced specially to take in materials of this kind. Yet it could not suck this in. Zuemo channeled in Shen power. The white mist finally could not resist the strong magnetism of the magnetic bottle and immediately flowed into the bottle. In a flash, a space appeared around them. The white mist in the surroundings seemed to be constrained by a power and did not move in this direction. It was like a piece of the cake had been cut and Zuemo and the others were standing in the empty space. Zuomo's attention quickly moved away from the mist. A strange thing appeared in the empty space in front of them. Chapter 790, Totem Colosseum. A round disc covered in a spiraling pattern appeared in front of the group. There was a hole at the center of the disk and the white mist came from there. The disk was very small and the white mist flowed slowly. The mist did not dissipate but gathered in the air. Did all the mist here flow out of this disk? I know where this is. Pu Yao suddenly spoke gravely. What place is this? Zuo could hear that something was wrong in Pu Yao's tone. He felt strange. A daring person like Pu Yao actually had a place he was afraid of. Totem Colosseum. Pu Yao said coldly. Hearing the name, Wei first still and then his expression changed. He gasps, impossible. Totem Colosseum. Such a strange name, what is this place? Zuo was even more curious. Wei's response proved that this name was not ordinary. The Totem Colosseum is the place where the totem warriors of the ancient tribes would compete. Pu Yao introduced in a deep voice, in the ancient era, they would host a tournament once in a while. The totem warriors of each tribe would gather and fight to become the chief. Oh, it sounds like the sword test conference, Zuo said thoughtfully. The chief tournament is much more crueler than the sword test conference, Wei couldn't help but say, it is a fight to death. Few people come out alive. The strongest totem warrior would be called the chief. Its tribe would have great power, and the other tribes had to give it tribute. This tribute would continue until the new chief appeared. Usually, a conference would be hosted every decade. Wei said gravely, there is no evidence that proves this is the Totem Colosseum. I might have not gone to the Totem Colosseum, but the ruins here do not show any indication of it. Pu Yao said coldly, the 5 front halls of the Totem Colosseum are wind, rain, thunder, mist, and snow. If I am not wrong, this is the mist hall. That round disc should be the mist eye tablet. Wei was silent. He hadn't been the totem warrior in his time. In the tribe, he had been weak and matters like the Totem Colosseum would not involve him. However, he had heard of the 5 halls, wind, rain, thunder, mist, and snow of the Totem Colosseum. Zuo already half believed it. When Pu Yao said the name of the mist eye tablet, Zuo believed it. That described the round disc exactly. No wonder his Shen power was being suppressed everywhere. If this was the Totem Colosseum, then it would make sense. This was a place for totem warriors to fight. Pu Yao, you know a lot. Zuo was surprised by this. If Wei had been the one to say this, Zuo would feel it was normal since Wei had lived in that era. He hadn't expected the one to know of this place would be Pu Yao. Pu Yao did not show any pride but had a normal expression. My teacher once studied the Totem Colosseum for a very long time. Zuo finally understood. However, he was even more curious. Pu Yao's teacher seemed very strong. Then what do we do now? Zuo asked with anticipation. Then he pointed enthusiastically at the mist eye tablet. This is a good thing, it definitely is a treasure, can we take it? Pu Yao said seriously, the wind, rain, thunder, mist, and snow halls of the Totem Colosseum are the first tests. The number of people eliminated here is the highest. Only those that can survive will enter the next round. The mist eye tablet is a treasure, but it guards the mist hall. If you are able to take it, the mist hall will be defeated. However, I do not suggest for you to do this. When he heard the mist eye tablet was a treasure, Zuo immediately rubbed his hands and was yearning to go when Pu Yao poured down cold water on him. He asked in bewilderment, why not? The totem warriors of the ancient era were much stronger than you are now. Why did no one else think of taking the mist eye tablet that has stayed here for so long? Pu Yao asked in response. Zuo froze. True, so many years, and this thing was still here. So many totem warriors, not one had managed to take it. This thing definitely was not easy to deal with. Little Mo Gu was a money grubber, but he knew his limits. He might be a major player in the world now, but he was not comparable to those inhuman freaks in the ancient era that could pick stars from the sky and hold moons in their palms. But, they could only stare at the treasure they encountered, and then leave. If they couldn't take it, why tell Ge? Suomo's heart dripped blood, but he maintained his calm. How do we get out? Pu Yao shook his head. I don't know. Don't know. Suomo stilled. Don't know. Pu Yao continued to shake his head. Suomo wanted to cry. He knew that this was the Mist Hall, knew that the Mist Eye tablet was a treasure, but he didn't know how to leave, he didn't know the most important thing. Looking at Suomo's disdainful gaze, Pu Yao said helplessly, many things from the ancient era were lost in history. It is not easy to even dig up this much information. Wei, who had been thinking hard all this time, suddenly spoke. I remember a book from the tribe said. Suomo became alert. What did they say? It's too long ago, I don't quite remember it, let me think. Wei was slightly embarrassed. He only had a faint impression. It seemed that there had been one from the tribe that had been wounded after the first round that left the tournament, which was why he had left what he learned behind. Hearing this, Suomo didn't know what to do. At this time, suddenly, Silly Bird, who had been glaring, suddenly pecked at the hole in the Mist Eye tablet. Hiss crack. A burst of sparks erupted at Silly Bird's bead. Vroom. The Mist Eye tablet shook, and then a suddenly suction came from the eye. The surrounding mist that looked like cotton candy started to move towards Suomo and the others. The seemingly tangible white mist seemed to be balls of cotton that pressed at them from all areas. Rumbles came from deep within the mist. Suomo was stunned by the change. He had never thought that Silly Bird would attack. What was with the bird? Did it have a grudge against the thing? However, there was no time for him to think. In a blink, the mist was about 3 zhang away from them. Unlike the calm mist just now, the mist now was thick and restless. While Suomo didn't know what mysteries the white mist held, Suomo knew he could not let it continue. Since they could suck the mist in, then I can too. Suomo snickered. He flipped his hand, and a magnetic bottle appeared in his hand. He cast a spell to suck in mist. Yet the suction of the bottle was clearly not as strong as the Mist Eye tablet. Suomo saw this, and he flipped his hand again, and again, and again. A moment later, 3 rows of magnetic bottles appeared in front of him, 9 to a row. Magnetic bottle formation. Suck. The power of the 27 magnetic bottles immediately showed their effect. 27 flows of white mist entered the magnetic bottles. In a blink, the surroundings were cleared again. The 27 bottles were completely filled. Suomo sighed in relief and was also shocked. The magnetic bottles he had were not ordinary. If a bottle like this was used to hold water, it could easily suck a river dry, and that was a river 3 li wide and 10 li long. He hadn't thought that they would be filled after taken in the white mist for such a short time. The white mist condensed into water in the bottle. There was only a handful in each bottle. The water flashed with multicolored light and he could not see what was special about it. Yet before Suomo could study what this white mist really was, the surrounding white mist started to move towards them again. When the white mist was 2 zhang away from them, the white mist twisted and roiled. At the same time, Suomo had a suddenly feeling of danger. There seemed to be something dangerous about to come out of the white mist. At this time, a wave of hissing sounded within the white mist. It was a group of white bats. The swarm of white bats numbered in the hundreds. They came quickly, their wings like blades as they broke through the mist. Careful! A tiny black shadow next to him suddenly flew out, and in the air, the black shadow exploded into tiny rays of light. Every ray of light was a minuscule sword energy. The sword energies looked like fireworks as they exploded. The white bats hit the bright sword energies head-on. Pop pop pop. The bats struck by the sword energies immediately turned into puffs of white mist. A small shadow dressed in black robes stood with a crescent blade. He floated in front of Zhuo Mo with a cold expression. It was the aggressive 10th grade. 10th grade had a proud expression as though he had not used his full power in the attack just now. Not bad, Lil 10, good job. This strike has some of eldest Shixiang's style. Of course Zhuo Mo would not be frugal in praise. While 10th grade used a crescent blade, he cultivated a sword scripture. 10th grade's expression did not change, but he clearly felt good at Zhuo Mo's praise. Lil Pagoda flew happily to rub 10th grade, and waved his fleshy eaves as though he was saying, "You worked hard, you worked hard." He seemed to be fawning. Lil Fire also moved over and rolled its round body around 10th grade. 10th grade's proud expression immediately turned into one of helplessness. He clearly did not know what to do with these two. Careful. Zhuo Mo was alarmed. Soft hissing suddenly sounded in the mist. If Zhuo Mo was not focused, he would not have detected it. He reacted quickly, his fingers flickering. The green strand on his wrist shot into the mist like a viper. HN. Zhuo Mo was startled as the green stand on his wrist suddenly tensed. Zhuo Mo reacted quickly. With a flip of his hand, a thread of sun shen fire appeared on his right hand. The shen fire grew along the green strand to spread at a quick rate towards the other end. A stream of fire flashed by. Boom! A deep roar came from within the white mist. The white mist was very strange. The explosion had been strong, but the mist was not affected by the explosion at all. An angry roar suddenly sounded from within the white mist. The sun shen power had wounded it. Zhuo Mo snorted. His hand pulled and shook the green strand. Ripples of energy were released from the green stand and rained into the white mist. Pew pew pew. A string of deep impacts rattled out. How could Zhuo Mo's attacks end so easily? He immediately braced himself and pulled abruptly on the green strand. A mist ball the height of a person was forcibly pulled out of the mist by Zhuo Mo. The mist ball was thicker than the normal white mist. Something seemed to be moving inside it in an eerie manner. At this time, something suddenly occurred. Chapter 791, The Power of Gluttons. The mist ball suddenly exploded. Howling waves enveloped everyone, countless tiny white figures leaping at the group. Zhuo Mo's scalp pricked, the green strand in his hand vibrating relentlessly. When the white shadows were struck by the green strand, they immediately exploded. Bam bam bam. With every explosion, a strange power would pass to Zhuo Mo's wrist from the green strand. The frequent and eerie power battered at Zhuo Mo like waves. Zhuo Mo's heart shook. His physical body was so strong, yet he felt as though he couldn't keep a grip on the green strand. These white shadows were the size of a thumb and shaped like tadpoles with unusually large heads. When they opened their mouths, they revealed two dense rows of scary teeth. There were tens of thousands of them that furiously charged at the group. 10th grade's expression turned cold. The crescent blade around him suddenly attacked. The flash from before was absent, but an indescribable bloodthirst replaced it. 100 sacrifice soul-killing sword. The sword scripture known to be the most vicious in the world lived up to the name. With this attack, a vicious and bloodthirsty energy formed as the sword moved. The little crescent blade suddenly lit up with a dark red color. The crescent moon attacked. After turning dark red, the crescent seemed to be a bloody shadow that moved relentlessly. These gray shadows changed constantly as though they were moving about, forming and dissipating. Each shadow was filled with great killing energy. As the shadows formed and dissipated, the vicious energy of the dark red crescent blade reached a peak. Woo woo woo. Like the cries of hundreds of ghosts, like the howls of tens of thousands of beasts. In front of 10th grade the white shadows seemed to be frightened by such vicious energy. They screamed even more frequently, so sharp and high-pitched it almost ruptured eardrums as they furiously fled in all directions. The dark red crescent blade easily passed through the layers of white shadow as though they were intangible. The silky blood shadow would turn the white figures into a water droplets upon contact, so quickly the white shadow didn't even have time to shout. In a flash, all the white shadows in front of 10th grade were swept clean, and only droplets of water fell down. Lil Pagoda stretched out its head from behind 10th grade. It sucked in all the raindrops into its body. Zuemo finally cleared out the white figures in front of him. His wrist gave off pangs of soreness and his heart was intimidated. The white mist in the surroundings were still the same as though what had happened just now was just a dream. Yet before Zuemo would sigh in relief, dozens of white arrows suddenly shot out of the white mist. Zuemo's wrist instinctively shook, and the green strand shot towards the white arrows. The green strand accurately hit the white arrows, yet the explosions that Zuemo predicted did not occur. The straight arrows suddenly opened their mouths and bit the green strand. Zuemo discovered that these were not white arrows but snakes. The mist snakes held on to the green strands and would not let go. At this time, the tails of the snakes suddenly exploded. Starting from the tail, the snake exploded inch by inch. When the snake head exploded, an astounding power passed to Zuemo through the green strand. Zuemo's entire hand turned numb. Such strong power. Zuemo's expression turned grave. Following this power, the green strand shook lightly. Whoosh whoosh, dozens of crescent energies immediately shot towards the other white snakes. Half of the crescent energies hit a target. 7 white snakes nimbly dodged and then exploded in unison. Zuemo's expression changed dramatically. The explosion of one white snake had been so strong just now. The power of these 7 snakes would release when they exploded in unison, the power. He reacted quickly, his Shen power rippling and gathering in his right hand. Boom! A great power smashed out through the green strand in a furious wave. Zuemo's body lit up with bright golden light and he couldn't help but take a step back. Hiss hiss hiss. The hissing within the white mist echoed in his ears. Zuemo was astounded. The monsters inside the white mist was so strong and they seemed to be endless. The white mist still moved slowly towards them. Zuemo knew if the white mist completely shrouded him, their situation would worsen. What should he do? The monsters made from the white mist seemed to be unable to go too far from the white mist. At most, they would fly 2 zhang from the white mist. Zuemo thought of how he had used the magnetic bottles before to carve out this zone of safety. If he could expand the area. He hurriedly searched in his ring. He had used most of the bottles already, and the remaining few were futile. No, there had to be a way. Zuemo turned his face and saw the black gold seal soldier. He couldn't help but slap his forehead. How did he forget this guy? Zuemo pulled over the black gold seal soldier and said emotionally, "Blackie, look, our situation is not very good." Hearing this, the black gold seal soldier excitedly made a fist and patted his chest. "Big brother, should I go?" "No problem. Watch me beat them to pieces." "Beat them to pieces?" Zuemo shook his head and said mysteriously. "There is a way that you can easily defeat them." "What way?" the black gold seal soldier asked with a curious expression. Zuemo patted the black gold seal soldier's stomach. "Hey, eat them. Just like how you usually eat food. If you eat all of the white mist, wouldn't they be defeated?" The black gold seal soldier had a dumbstruck gaze. A moment later, he stammered out, "Big brother, the white mist isn't tasty." "Blackie. Look, this is the best time for you to display our talents. As long as you show your talents, we will all look at you differently. Your Agui sister will bring you good things to eat. Didn't you want to eat some cloud steeds? If you suck dry all of the white mist, this might be considered." Zuemo had a deep expression. "Really? The simple-minded black gold seal soldier immediately widened his eyes and was excited and spirited. "All right. See how I suck them dry." He opened his mouth. As expected, the white mist burrowed into his mouth like a whale inhaling. Suo Mo's eyes turned. Just one wasn't enough. His eyes swept across the other little ones. The little ones retreated in fright. Suo Mo's gaze landed on Lil Pagoda and his eyes lit up. He felt very proud. Fortunately, Ji had taken along enough gluttons. "Lil Pagoda, come here." Lil Pagoda came over with a timid expression. "Good son, go suck in. This mist is a good thing. Think about it, the mist of the ancient era, with just a mouthful, you will be immune to all ills. With 2 mouthfuls, you will have your youth forever, with 3 mouthfuls, oh. In conclusion, this is something good. Ancient era mist that could trouble even those totem warriors. At present, they would be sold in by the drop or as single strands. Good son, you cannot miss this opportunity, it will never come again." Suo Mo spoke cleverly. Lil Pagoda's eyes were down, its expression hurt as it slowly moved its fleshy body forward. The yin-yang fish at its forehead started to spin. Hiss, the surrounding white mist started to stream into the yin-yang fish at an even faster rate than the black gold seal soldier. The black gold seal soldier glanced sneakily at Lil Pagoda and gave out a rebellious snort. His mouth widened, his eyes widening, and his inhalation rate of the white mist suddenly increased. Suo Mo looked around in pride. People were short-sighted and could not understand that it would always be the gluttons that would conquer the world. With 2 great gluttons in his hand, he could vie for the world. Rain Hall. Tan Su coldly inspected the corpses on the ground. Without raising his head, he said, "It is people from Karma Temple, they didn't even put up a good fight." His tone was filled with dismissiveness. He had enough cause for this. From the moment he discovered them to killing them, he had only used 2 moves. He felt slightly disappointed. In his view, Karma Temple's Shen power was not acceptable. This kind of Shen power was actually able to become the cornerstone of a big sect. Tan Su had been full of anticipation towards the mission. Other than the importance of the mission itself, he was excited about the opponents he would encounter. Tan Su was outstanding among the Kunlun disciples. Otherwise, he would not have been chosen to become a child of Kunlun. There were other disciples in Kunlun that were about the same as him in strength. For example, Nie Chen and Zhen Mengling were not weaker than he was. However, sect competitions could not compare to true fighting outside. However, up until now, he had not encountered an opponent that could last for 3 moves. He felt bored by this. Nie Chen held an exquisite disc in his hand. If experts saw this, they would exclaim, "Determination Compass." Determination Compass was one of the most famous Kunlun talismans. It was 9th grade, and it had been high up on the treasure rankings for a long time. While Shen devices were stronger and better treasures now, 9th grade talismans were still rare and had wondrous abilities. Nie Chen raised his head. Left side, 3 people. Tan Zu's expression became murderous. Snap snap, he cracked his joints. "Don't interfere." Nie Chen ignored him and said directly, "Ling Meng, attack as well. Finish as fast as possible, we do not have much time." He raised his head to look at the endless rain coming down the sky. He murmured to himself, "Totem Colosseum, interesting." Tan Zu's expression became displeased but he did not make a sound. It was all right that he spoke towards Nie Chen in a defiant manner on a daily basis, but this time, Nie Chen was the leader for this mission. Tan Su was a rebellious person but he cared about discipline. This was the conduct of Kunlun at present. As Lin Qian continued to govern, Kunlun's discipline tightened. What people usually did was not controlled, but once they entered battle, they had to be disciplined. Tan Su only thought inside that he had to be faster in attacking than last time. The three silently hid in the curtain of the rain without any presence. Their understanding of this ruin far surpassed everyone else. People had to admit defeat to Kunlun's great wealth. Kunlun had quickly found the previous incarnation of the ruins from its ocean of records, the Totem Colosseum. Kunlun truly had too many records. Their dominant status for thousands of years allowed them to collect innumerable precious records. The number of secrets unknown to people could not be counted. They found many details concerning the Totem Colosseum and prepared well. They knew each obstacle, they had taken along talismans to counter each obstacle. For example, the rain disguise cape, that could hide them in the curtain of rain. Adding on 3 strong children of Kunlun, it was clear how much Kunlun wanted the Shin device nucleus. In the curtain of rain, the 3 figures appeared. They were careful yet they did not detect that there were people hiding in the rain already. Chapter 793, Ghost Mist Child. It was the first time Zhuamo fought someone so strong. The other seemed to possess an undying body. The endless mist sea would heal his injuries. Compared to him, the mist monsters that Zhuamo and the others encountered in the mist hall weren't worth a mention. Every ghost mist head was like a heavy little mountain. Their shifting faces were filled with an eerie power. If the Sun Shin power wasn't their bane, Zhuamo doubted that he could have managed to survive until now. However, at this time, Zhuamo didn't have any stray thoughts in his head. The green strand in his hand floated uncontrollably. The light at the tip of Zhuamo's finger suddenly gave off an ancient and desolate power. It was like the vast primal plain where everything grew naturally. There were no signs of civilization, only the vitality of nature. This Shin glyph he did not know the name of, this Shin glyph that he had not yet completely comprehended flooded into his mind as Zhuamo was forced to a precipice. The green strand suddenly rolled back as though it was summoned. The hair-thin strand tore through the air with a piercing shriek. Zhuamo's attention was completely focused as he searched for the feeling from that day. The light at his fingertip gradually grew brighter. Suddenly, his fingertip felt heavy. Joy flashed through Zhuamo's eyes. This was the feeling. Virum. A heart-shaking low roar came as though it was like a tide coming closer. The dancing green strand started to give off eerie light. It was like a luminescent seagrass dancing in the air. Any ghost mist head that was touched by the green strand would pop. The hair-thin green strand seemed to contain astounding power. With just light blows, even the largest ghost mist heads would turn to dust. This scene was amazing to see. Pop pop pop. The ghost mist heads rushing towards Zhuamo were destroyed. Before their destruction, the sorrowful wails of the ghost mist heads would send chills to anyone listening. Yet Zhuamo, who was immersed in the Shin glyph, did not seem to feel it. In a blink, the space in front of Zhuamo was clear. The mist giant saw the glowing green strand and exclaimed after a moment of stillness, "Green pulse string. Green pulse string." Zhuamo did not have time to think. The feeling coming from his fingertips was not one of heaviness but a dull burning pain as though he had rubbed the skin on his finger raw. Zhuamo gave a muffled grunt but ignored the pain. He continued to draw the Shin glyph that appeared in his mind. The green strand suddenly untied itself from Zhuamo's wrist. The green strand danced in front of Zhuamo, one end flying into the sky, and the other end under Zhuamo. In a flash, the green strand was pulled tight like a piano wire made from light connecting the sky and earth. The mist giant was clearly panicked. His body sank and he was about to flee into the mist sea. As long as he fled into the mist sea, he would be safe. Suddenly, his figure froze. The lower half of his body did not listen to him. Watching as the light of the green strand grew, he panicked even more. What was going on? He bent his neck and found to his shock that the lower half of his body had, at some time, become a dull gray. Only now he did suddenly recall the woman who had dodged before had channeled something into his body. His body could change at will, was immune to all toxins. As long as he was in the Mist Sea, he was immortal. Ever since he began guarding the Mist Eye Tablet, after fighting so many totem warriors, there was only a handful of warriors that he felt threatened by. How could these two worms threaten him, an entity who had lived for tens of thousands of years and was peerlessly powerful? But the initial spread of the gray color hadn't attracted his attention. In the moments before this, he had dismissed it. What was this? The Mist Giant was slightly shocked, but he did not lose his composure. This was probably a great poison. He pondered. This was not a challenge to him. He was experienced. Poison was useless against him. The Mist Giant recovered his calm and smirked inside. This endless mist sea was his greatest support. He had experience in dealing with poisons. If he collapsed his body and then reconstructed it again, even the greatest poison was useless. Just like usual, he prepared to destroy his body. Yet, in the next moment, his expression changed. He was unable to break down his body. How was this possible? How was this possible? The Mist Giant was both shocked and angry. Suddenly, an eerie green light entered his vision. He couldn't help but turn his head. His soul was scared out of him. The ruler straight green thread energy was so thick it was almost tangible from afar. This piano string that connected the earth to the sky was giving off a blinding and intense light. When the Mist Giant's eyes landed on Zhuomo's finger that was drawing in the air, he was motionless as though he had been struck by lightning. Impossible. The burning sensation from his fingertip grew stronger. Zhuomo had reached the end of what he could draw. His attention was focused and tense, so focused he had no other thoughts. He feared that if he slacked off slightly, all of this work would go to waste. As Zhuomo drew the Shen glyph, the green strand that was like a cord of light in front of him seemed to be drawn back by invisible hands. As the green thread was drawn out, the green lights quickly gathered at the point where the green strand was being pulled. The light marks increased. In a flash, a small green twister of light formed on the green strand. The enormous body of the Mist Giant was the best target at this time. BRNG. The string twanged. The twisting green light drew out a blinding green streak in the air before striking the Mist Giant. The green light easily entered the body of the Mist Giant. The Mist Giant's body was frozen as though it was a statue. Suddenly, blinding green light came from inside the Mist Giant. Immediately after, rays of light broke through the Mist Giant like swords. The Mist Giant seemed like a hedgehog. Whoosh! Green tongues of flame suddenly shot out of the Mist Giant. Moments later, the Mist Giant was completely enveloped in flames and burned. Zhuomo finally came out of his strange state. There was nothing under his feet, and his body twisted as it instinctively maintained his position in the air. He finally found to his shock that all of his Shen power had been used up. Looking at the enormous ball of fire in the distance, Zhuomo finally sighed in relief. His gaze landed on the green strand that had lost all of its light. With a wave of his hand, the green strand flew back into his hands. Green pulse string. That seemed to be the 3 words that the Mist Giant had just said. Suddenly, a tiny white shadow flew out of the flames and was attempting to break into the air. Zhuomo could clearly see that the white shadow was a snowy white child. What was that? Seeing him about to flee, a hand appeared out of nowhere and grabbed his neck. The child's body froze. He didn't dare to move, but he grimaced inside. Holding the naked child, a Gui flew next to Zhuomo, Ghost Mist Child. He's the Ghost Mist Child of the Ghost Mist tribe. Wei said with wonder. Ghost Mist Child. Zhuomo was clueless. They say that when the totem warriors of the Ghost Mist tribe reach the end of their cultivation, they would rejuvenate back to a child, with their bodies becoming completely white. That is a Ghost Mist Child, Wei explained. It seems very powerful. Zhuomo muttered. I am very powerful. The child on Agui's hand couldn't resist speaking. Swa Mo, Wei, and Pu Yao were completely stunned. The ghost mist child could hear them talking. "I'm telling you, this old man was the strongest in the tribe in the past," the ghost mist child said in a wizened tone. However, when paired with his young voice, it was strange to hear. Pu Yao's bloody pupil suddenly flashed. "You can hear us talk." "Of course," the ghost mist child said impatiently. "You two are souls, here in my territory, how can I not hear you? You are very weak to not know such a minor skill. You definitely cannot even leave the body of this boy. You know how to make your soul manifest outside your body?" Pu Yao's bloody pupil flashed again. "Soul manifest outside the body? I haven't heard of that. However, it is very simple to walk out of this boy's body," the ghost mist child said offhandedly. "How?" Pu Yao asked shamelessly. The ghost mist child suddenly stopped talking, knowing he had something of value now. He wasn't dumb. He had talked so much because he wanted to bargain with Swa Mo was experienced. Seeing the other like this, he knew what the other's plan was. He smirked and said, "Cooperate, and save yourself some physical pain." The ghost mist child said dismissively, "What can you do to this old man? If you kill this old man, you will never be able to leave the mist eye tablet." "Do I need to kill you?" Swa Mo was a vicious person and the ghost mist child couldn't compare to him. He said coolly, "I only need to put a wisp of sunshine fire into your body, humph humph." He remembered what Wei said. The sunshine power he cultivated was the bane of the ghost mist tribe. The sunshine fire should also be effective against the ghost mist child. The ghost mist child's expression immediately turned ill as he shrieked, "You are so evil." Scared by just this, Swa Mo continued to smile coldly. "Gu has all kinds of ways, this is nothing. Resist, keep resisting, GE is waiting. You brought GE in here, we need to settle this debt. Otherwise, this is only the start." The ghost mist child was about to cry. He had slept for tens of thousands of years and encountered such a freakish guy after waking up. Pu Yao said coldly, "Careful, do not let him near the mist sea below." The ghost mist child wanted to kill himself by hitting his head on the wall. How come every one of the enemy was so cunning? The mist hall that he had guarded for so many years. He really missed it. The people of the ancient era were so honest. Ill talk, ill talk. The ghost mist child could not care for anything else now that the situation was like this. These people were clearly not friendly, and he could only be unfortunate to have landed in the hands of these people. The ghost mist child presented a chant. A black and white figure quickly broke free of Swa Mo's sea of consciousness. "Ha ha ha ha." Pu Yao laughed into the sky with pleasure. He had been searching all this time for a way to leave Swa Mo's sea of consciousness. Only today was his wish fulfilled. This feeling was too good. Wei also had an expression of joy and novelty. No one could imagine the desire a person who was trapped for so many years felt towards freedom. Ague was unaffected by Pu Yao and Wei's suddenly appearances. Swa Mo looked at Pu Yao and Wei who were flying back and forth in the sky. He couldn't help but gave a sincere smile. These two antiques. The ghost mist child saw no one was paying attention to him and was about to attempt to break free. However, the girl who was grabbing his neck seemed to detect his intentions and her grip tightened. The ghost mist child's neck felt a burst of pain. He immediately became docile. Chapter 794, Encountering Tian Huan. Wind Hall Wan Yuxian looked on at the battle occurring without a word. Long Yan held the advantage, even while fighting 1 against 3, but Wan Yuxian didn't have any happiness in his expression. His gaze landed on the 3 that were struggling to survive. Mo Cloud Sea. These 3 were from Mo Cloud Sea. Wan Yuxian recognized the identities of the three at first glance, and they were Mo Cloud C's elite. Mo Cloud C was Tian Huan's enemy, and Wan Yuxian wanted to test them to see what was the strength of Mo Cloud C's elite forces. He had Long Yan attack. Long Yan quickly gained the advantage. This was not a surprise to Wan Yuxian. Yet the following fighting caused Wan Yuxian to become serious. The three from Mo Cloud C were at a disadvantage, but they were hardy. Even now, they were not defeated. The trio's battle formation was practiced, and they were in sync. Even if they were at a disadvantage, they were resilient. Long Yan was not using his full power, but Wan Yuxian was still surprised by the three's strength. If Mo Cloud C's elite were all of such a skill level, then it would be terrifying. Wan Yuxian could see a lot of things. These three were average in strength, they had not cultivated Shen power for long, their talent was average, and they wore Mo Cloud C's Shen equipment. From every perspective, they did not have any outstanding traits. However, the trio used the power of the battle formations, Shen equipment, and their skills to their limits. This was what truly shocked Wan Yuxian. For any faction, individual strength was not scary. Up until now, no one had appeared who had the power to destroy a sect on their own. No one knew how powerful the top-level experts really were, their offensive power, and their influence on the state of the conflict. Ever since they entered the era of Shen power, there had not been one battle between battalions that top-level experts had participated in. There were many factors that determined the war, such as the battle generals, the collective skill of the battalion, equipment and others. What these three showed were the crucial aspects. Mo Cloud C had experts. Mo Cloud C was not weak, and the Mo Cloud Shen equipment was one of the strongest Shen equipment. Compared to Kunlun and Tian Huan, Mo Cloud C's greatest weakness was their battalion. There was still a gap between their soldiers compared to Kunlun and Tian Huan. This difference was a difference accumulated through thousands of years. It could not be made up in a few short years. Before today, Wan Yuxian firmly believed that Mo Cloud C's abilities could not compare to Tian Huan. While Mo Cloud C had Gongsun Cha and Bihan, Tian Huan definitely led Mo Cloud C by a large margin. However, he did not think that now. These three were definitely not the exception. Mo Cloud C likely knew their weaknesses, and due to this, they carved their own path. They used battle formations and Shen equipment to unearth every thread of potential in their battalion. These things were not in the open, they could not be seen or held, but they could truly increase the collective strength of the battalion. Wan Yuxian noted it down. When he returned, he would definitely report this to the sect leader. Tian Huan's Shen equipment was comparable to Mo Cloud C, and their battalions were higher in quality. However, they had not completely uncovered all of the advantages. If the two sides met, Wan Yuxian was not sure how much of an advantage the battalions on his side would have. Finish this. Do not waste too much time on these pawns. Wan Yuxian felt as though he had understood the mysteries and did not need to waste too much time on this. Long Yan's attacks grew in power as he heard this. The trio that had been in danger seemed as though they would be killed. Suddenly, a thick and gentle voice came, "Wouldn't it be a pity if you leave now?" The trio suddenly became alert and managed to stop Long Yan's attack. Among the furious winds, a withered body slowly walked out. His steps were slow, yet his movement was fast. While his voice sounded as though he was coming from far away, he had already reached them. Yes, when did it become that anyone could bully Mo Cloud C? A lazy voice carried soul-stealing seductiveness. A female like a rose elegantly came. The furiously wind did not cause any ripples on her dark red dress. Zhong Ru. Tseng Lianer. Wan Yuxian's pupils suddenly contracted. Long Yan retreated from the fight and moved back to Wan Yuxian's side. It was no wonder that the two were wary. The experts of Mo Cloud C were people that all the major sects had investigated. Nothing more need to be said of Tsing Lianer. This female that cultivated moon Shen power had mysteriously appeared around Zuemo. Just as everyone was searching for Shen power, she had already made small accomplishments in Shen power. No one knew how strong she was now. In the past, Zhong Ru was an unknown name. Yet when Zhong Ru came out of his death seclusion, the worldly apparition shook all of Mo Cloud Sea. The news was naturally passed back to the sects by the scouts. When the sects put more effort into the investigation, the information on Zhong Ru was filled in and everyone marveled. Zhong Ru was from low birth, and was an unorthodox Xiu. He followed Zuemo from very early on and was extremely loyal to him. In order to help Zuemo, he swore the Buddha abandonment death wish, and obtained wish power. Then he entered death seclusion, and he actually came out. Due to this, he immediately became known as one of the Shen power experts under Zuomo's command. When Wan Yuxian saw Zhong Ru, he knew the rumors had not exaggerated. The methods that Diana Xiu used to cultivate were different, and so the signs when they had reached each higher level varied. However, while Zhong Ru had an emaciated body, his eyes were clear and penetrating. Wan Yuxian felt even more fearful. While Diana methods paid great attention to tempering the body, there were also Diana Xiu that focused on the mind. Those methods thought of the body as a shell that was an obstacle to transcend. Zhong Ru was probably on that path. Darren said before that we will encounter Tian Huan experts here. I hadn't thought it would be so soon, Tsing Lianer said serenely. Wan Yuxian's heart shook. The other recognized them. He forced a smile. Tian Huan. Miss Tseng, you think we are Tian Huan? Tian Huan is a great sect, it is not something that roaming Xiu like us can claim connections with. Tsing Lianer looked amusedly at Wan Yuxian. She did not speak but caused Wan Yuxian to become anxious. Well, no, after fighting. Zhong Ru's tone was still gentle and ethereal. The trio that had almost lost their lives became excited. These people had followed Zuemo for a long time, and could not avoid being infected with some of little Mo's poisonous tongue. One of them muttered, "Ho, they are terrified already." Another person followed, "Of course, Tian Huan is nothing. If they encounter Grandmaster and Big Sister, they will be beaten like a dog." The third person coldly said, "We are cursing Tian Huan, please do not put yourselves in." Wan Yuxian felt anger rise in his throat. It was the first time in his life he had such a strong impulse. He wanted to tear apart the mouths of the trio. Long Yen was provoked, and his figure flashed as he shot towards the three. The killing energy was tangible and like a wind that swept towards the three. This time, he did not keep anything back in his attack. Suddenly, a thin hand appeared in front of him. So fast. Long Yan's eyes narrowed, and his fighting spirit grew. He continued forward rather than retreating. His presence increased again. With an angry shout, a bright Shen glyph suddenly lit up from his fist and reached his forearm. Shen power wildly circulated in the Shen glyph. Threads of light formed from the Shen glyph and rapidly gathered towards his fist. Long Yan's fist transformed into a manifestation that seemed similar to a dragon. It roared suddenly and everyone's minds shook. Zhong Ru's expression did not change. The thin hand waved slightly and formed a patch of void. Long Yan's ferocious punch seemed to attack empty space and didn't make a sound. In the eyes of everyone else, it seemed as though Long Yan's punch was swallowed by Zhong Ru's hand. The raging power, and the tangible killing intent immediately disappeared. Just now, it had been furious waves, and now the ocean was calm in a blink. Even more eerie was that Long Yan's fist and Zhong Ru's thin palm seemed to be stuck together. The ghost mist child had never thought that there would be day he would also become a captive. This day had also come so quickly he hadn't prepared mentally at all. And the first time he tripped up in over 10,000 years was on such a malicious and cunning person. Listening to the names of those cruel tortures, the ghost mist child felt a chill just hearing the names. There was only one thought left in his mind. How could there be such devious and evil people in the world? The pitiful guy's last bit of hope finally disappeared under Zhuomo's endless threats. He was obedient. He answered whatever Zhuomo asked. Zhuomo finally learned many things. The ghost mist child had been a strong person in the past, the strongest of that generation in the ghost mist tribe. He had been a powerful and influential person. However, people would encounter unpredicted fortune and misfortune. When he had been refining the mist eye tablet, he had been careless and his soul was sucked in. Losing his physical body, he comprehended the mist sea method. From then on, he was immortal. The mist eye tablet naturally grew in power. He was furious and sorrowful. He was not willing to accept a master. Any person that wanted to take the mist eye tablet would be heavily wounded by him. Yet he hadn't thought that he ended up in the hands of the person who created the Totem Colosseum. That time, it had been he himself that had been beaten into submission. In the end, his master had assigned him to guard the mist hall. After his master died, and the Totem Colosseum was closed, he was locked in the Totem Colosseum, unable to see the light of the day. He finally saw people come in, he immediately became alert. In the past, the mist hall had always been thought as the hardest first hall to pass. He hadn't thought that he would end up in the hands of scoundrels. He was sad and indignant. Zhuomo was overjoyed. He finally learned the origins of the green strand from the ghost mist child. Green pulse string, an unique item from the ancient era. It was formed by the universe, and no one knew of its origins or what it was. They only knew that it could grow. Every 1,000 years, it would grow half a li. This 7 li long green pulse string had grown for at least 14,000 years. Hearing this, Zhuomo caressed the item. Good treasure. Chapter 795, Yield. Other than the green pulse string, Zhuomo naturally asked about other things such as the setup of the Totem Colosseum and where the dangers were. Regretfully, the ghost mist child was clearly a recluse, and a super recluse that stayed inside for more than 10,000 years. Except for the small area of the mist hall, he had never stepped into any other hall. Of course, to show off that he had some connections, the guy said that he was friends with the other Totem Colosseum guardians in spirit. Friends in spirit for a long time. Zhuomo almost cursed out loud. From the words, he knew there was no relationship. Most of this guy's knowledge has been wrung out, how should we deal with him? Zhuomo looked at Pu Yaoenwei, saying, he's a troublesome fellow to keep. He might secretly trip us. It is more convenient to kill him. The ghost mist child bellowed, his snowy white face turning even whiter. Don't kill me. If you kill me, you will not be able to leave. Was the spell you just gave us a fake? Zhuomo's face turned murderous immediately. The ghost mist child frozen and his face was ashen. Had he given them the true spell just now? He thought about how Zhuomo had threatened him repeatedly, and he didn't remember at all what he had confessed in his days. It is better to kill him. Pu Yao did not look at the ghost mist child but the mist sea with admiration. This mist eye tablet is a good place. His intentions of taking over the place was clear. Wei said with a smile, good. The ghost mist child was struck dumb in fear. No. Don't kill me. Zhuomo looked down at him and said, Mo Cloud Sea never supports wastrels. If you don't have any value, why should we keep you alive? Value? The ghost mist child seemed to grab onto the last bit of hope. He shook and said, value. Value. I have value. Oh, then speak. Zhuomo saw the other entering his trap and rejoiced inside. However, he showed an uncaring expression on the surface. I'm willing to give you the mist shen methodology of the ghost mist tribe, the ghost mist child said hurriedly. Mist shen methodology? Zhuomo made a sound and then asked, how does it compare to the sun shen methodology? He thought inside, this could be given to Yiling, it would be useful. The ghost mist child stilled. A moment later, he shook his head. I don't know. See, you want to use just the ghost mist Shen methodology to persuade ye, you underestimate ye. Suemo had a disdainful expression. The ghost mist child gritted his teeth. This lowly one is willing to be in Darren's command. Suemo's eyes lit up. The ghost mist child continued, while these two can take over the mist eye tablet, this is an object that this lowly one forged. While the two can use some of its power, the methods are different, and they cannot use the mist eye tablet's true power. Suemo had been waiting for this. He deliberately pretended to be thoughtful and said, you say this, and I do feel that the power of this mist eye tablet is acceptable. However, if you flee into the mist sea, wouldn't ye lose both wealth and manpower? The ghost mist child felt sweat roll at little Mo guess, lose both wealth and manpower. He hurriedly said, this lowly one is willing to have Darren's imprint. If Darren uses this Shen methodology to leave behind Jinji, this small one will have no place to flee. Suemo took the Shen methodology from the ghost mist child and quickly scanned it. Then he looked amusedly at the ghost mist child. The ghost mist child's heart beat rapidly as Suemo stared at him. One should treasure life. Since you are willing to yield, a good person like ye will naturally follow the will of heaven. Suemo smiled as he looked at the ghost mist child. However, this method of yours is too complex. Ye doesn't need it, yes, soul-setting divine light is simpler. When the ghost mist child heard the word soul-setting divine light, he was stunned. What? You are not willing? Little Mo Gu said darkly. The ghost mist child wanted to cry, but he knew that the situation did not allow for him to hesitate. This little man in front of him was definitely a vicious person who wouldn't blink at killing. I am willing to yield to Darren's command. He bent his head and bowed. Once he said it, he felt better. In the past, hadn't his previous master also been so eerie and hard to predict? Also, master had many experts with him, cultivated the Sun Shen power, and had a treasure like the green pull string. Such a person even 10,000 years ago was outstanding. If he was able to work under such a person, he might be able to recover his true body. The ghost mist child immediately felt his heart light up. Thunder boomed overhead. Dazzling electric eels split the sky. They formed and dissipated constantly. Wei Xing walked forward step by step. His gaze looked directly forward, his steps were determined. His eyes that were like bloody glass were filled with fighting spirit. Behind him, 5 guards followed closely. They looked at the straight figure in front of them, their eyes filled with respect and reverence. The 5 of them had been sent to the Thunder Hall together. The 5 carefully traveled. They hadn't expected to encounter Wei Sheng and immediately sighed in relief. Suemo's plan was completely ruined. The guards without the advantage of numbers could not channel the power of the combat formation. The situation of the guards in the Totem Colosseum became very dangerous. Fortunately, they encountered Wei Sheng. Wei Sheng had a transcendent status in Mo Cloud Sea. It wasn't just because he was Suemo's eldest Shixiao. Wei Sheng's reputation had been built by using his sword. The present Wei Sheng was far from the unknown person of the past. He was thought of as one of the sword xiu in the world with the most potential. Even someone like Lin Qian praised him endlessly. Wukong's sword sect had become a legend. It had created a lord that had the ability to vie for the world, a great battle general that could rank 4th among the 10 great Xiuzhi battle generals, a peerless sword xiu that could reach the peak of the sword path, adding on Chun Yucheng, and Luo Li. No one would have thought that an unknown little backwater sect would be so strong. Wei Xing used his sword to create his reputation. This status was one that even the holy ground of sword xiu, Kunlun, had to admit. Wei Xing suddenly stopped in his steps. A brawny figure appeared in front of him. "You are Wei Xing," the incomer said in a deep voice. He did not disguise his status as a MO at all. His body that seemed to be smelted from copper was filled with a wild power. His head was bare and his upper half was naked. There was a red mark on his forehead. Round copper hoops the thickness of fingers hung from his ears. He wore short leather pants, and stood with bare feet. "I am Wei Sheng." Wei Sheng did not avoid the other's gaze and asked politely, "You are?" Wei Sheng could see that when he admitted that he was Wei Sheng, the other's eyes suddenly lit up. Wei Sheng was greatly familiar with that kind of gaze. That was a gaze filled with fighting spirit. The other grinned and showed 2 rows of white teeth. The 5th Mo god of the Mo Shen Temple, Wu Luo. Zhong Ru and Long Yan fought intensely. Wan Yuxian and Xing Lianer were not idle. The two were fighting. However, the more they fought, the more shocked Wan Yuxian was. He had thought highly of Xing Lianer but hadn't expected that the other's strength surpassed his predictions. Xing Lianer's Shen power was not vast, but stable and enduring. From beginning to end, it did not show any signs of drying up. The other's Shen techniques became unpredictable. Who said that ancient Shen methodologies did not have variations and one based on strength? Wan Yuxian became irritated as he fought. The Shen technique of Tian Huan focused on variation, yet he was suppressed in this field by Xing Lianer. That crescent moon of Xing Lianer's was full of variation. What irritated Wan Yuxian even more was that the other didn't just have endless variation, her attacks were unusually sharp, especially the moon essence chop. No matter what Shen technique he used, it would be bisected. The attack was wondrously sharp. What Wan Yuxian did not know that the moon Shen power that Xing Lianer cultivated was not from some minor Shen temple. The moon Shen temple had not been as strong as the sun Shen temple, but that was only because the moon Shen temple attacks were not as offensively powerful. The power of the moon Shen temple was great, and the moon Shen methodology it passed down was not an ordinary one. Xing Lianer had improved every day in the years she had stayed with Sui Mo. However, there were no opportunities for her to fight, so no one knew her strength. The only one that knew her strength was Sui Mo. Wan Yuxian naturally was exceptional fighter in order to be given such an important duty by Tian Huan. Tian Huan's Shen power was centered on the Shen glyph. The magnitude of their strength depended on their comprehension of Shen glyphs. In terms of ferocity, Wan Yuxian fell behind Long Yan, but in terms of Shen glyph comprehension, he was the strongest of the trio. In other words, he was the strongest of the three. The Shen glyph at his chest suddenly lit up. His presence abruptly changed. In a flash, he seemed to change into a completely different person. An indescribably pressuring presence covered Xing Lianer. Compared to Long Yan's Shen glyph, Wan Yuxian's Shen glyph was more complete. Unlike Mo Cloud C's inscription technique, the Shen glyphs of Tian Huan grew naturally as they comprehended the Shen glyphs. The deeper the understanding of the Shen glyph, the more complete the Shen glyph was, the stronger the Shen power produced by the Shen glyph was, and the number of Shen techniques that one could use was also greater. The Shen glyph that Wan Yuxian had was the mountain Shen glyph of Tian Huan. This Shen glyph had been used by the great ones of the ancient era to understand mountains. It contained some of the wonders of mountains and was peerlessly powerful. It was the first complete Shen glyph that Tian Huan had discovered, and was the top choice for the disciples to cultivate. While the mountain Shen glyph was not hard to start learn, it was hard to master. There were countless Tian Huan disciples, but the number of them that could cultivate it to a deep level was only a handful. Wan Yuxian was the best among them. He had his own interpretation of mountain. This caused his mountain Shen glyph to be different from other sect disciples' mountain Shen glyph. Even the elders and powers in the sect praised his mountain Shen glyph. He was filled with confidence in his own power. Even if he could not win against Xing Lianer, there were no problems in protecting himself. He thought of the orders from his sect before he had left, and his fighting spirit grew even more. Chapter 796, rain commanding banner Wan Yuxian's presence suddenly changed. He seemed to become a tall mountain, vast and unmoving. Tsing Lianer's eyes lit up. Naturally, she could see Wan Yuxian's change. It had been so long since she encountered such an interesting opponent. As a MO, Tsing Lianer liked to fight. However, she usually suppressed the urge. It was rare to encounter such a strong opponent. This ignited her fighting spirit. So what if it was a mountain? Tsing Lianer's hands were spread open. The crescent moon behind her that was larger than she was tall spun in front of her. It twisted nimbly around her body. Moon, moon, strike. Tsing Lianer's unique voice that was both seductive and serene entered Wan Yuxian's ears. The moon was like a blade. A sharp and icy presence came at Wan Yuxian's head. Wan Yuxian did not have time to think, and chanted, "A mountain seen is not a mountain." The vast presence immediately changed to becoming something unpredictable like a mountain shrouded in the mist. The moon accurately struck Wan Yuxian. Tsing Lianer's eyebrow jumped up. She could see that the moon had hit its target, but Tsing Lianer could feel that the attack had hit empty space. This was a masterful technique. Wan Yuxian's counterattack immediately came, his right hand grabbing for Tsing Lianer. Tsing Lianer felt her view darken as though a mountain was crashing down on her. She had the feeling that she could not dodge it. However, Tsing Lianer shattered the feeling in an instant. So what if it was a mountain? Her fingertip drew a curve along the inside crescent of the moon, and the inner curve of the crescent moon in front of her suddenly lit up. She moved her hand, and a string of light appeared in her hand. The crescent moon was a bow. Her hand pulling the bow open, there were small crescent moons on the bowstring. They were icy and glowing like wind chimes that gave off clear sounds. Ding ding ding. The pleasing sounds of the bells were like an enchanting tune that caused people to sink into it. Dozens of little moon crescents drew out dozens of eerie and cold curves as they flew towards Wan Yuxian. Wan Yuxian's expression was grave. The moment that Tsing Lianer pulled the bowstring, dozens of waves of killing intent locked onto him. There was a strong feeling of danger. His hand that was in the air immediately moved away from Tsing Lianer and slapped towards the little crescent moon flying in the air. Yet these palm-sized crescent moon were strange. Their flight paths did not have any pattern to speak of. Wan Yuxian's blow landed on empty air. However, Wan Yuxian was not so easily defeated. With a cold snort, his blow changed. It became a steep peak with precipitous cliffs that once again headed for Tsing Lianer. Tsing Lianer ignored it. She raised her arm, her fingers spread. The crescent moon in front of her started to spin like a fan. It spun faster and faster, turning into a curtain of light that covered Tsing Lianer. The curtain flew towards Wan Yuxian's blow. Wan Yuxian was overjoyed. This was a chance. He could not attend to anything else. All of his Shen power was gathered, the Shen glyph at his chest growing like young tendrils that spread along his arm. The bright light followed the Shen glyph into his right hand. A hand imprint left his hand. The hand imprint did not move fast, yet the entire space seemed to be moved by this hand. No matter how it struggled, it could not break free. All of space was being pulled. It headed for Tsing Lianer with an indescribable pressure. From the start of the battle to now, Wan Yuxian's presence reached its peak. At this time, he was like a tall mountain unable to be moved by the power of mortals. Tsing Lianer's eyes grew brighter. She did not retreat, the light covering her growing as she moved forward and bravely charged straight up. Her speed was like a meteor, the crescent moon spinning rapidly appearing as a curved shield of light that covered her. The little crescent moons flying in the air hummed in unison. They drew out strange paths and seemed to be attracted to Tsing Lianer. From far away, Tsing Lianer appeared like a meteor followed by dozens of streams of light. With a soul-shaking roar, Tsing Lianer charged at Wan Yuxian without any finesse. The two collided face on. Boom! Blinding light was released from where the two collided and immediately swallowed the two of them. The rippling air currents were like sharp arrows that could not be stopped. Having taken in the ghost mist child, Suemo felt very proud. The mist eye tablet was also a very good treasure. Suemo had personally tasted its power. If not for the help of a Gui, him alone was definitely not a match. However, the mist eye tablet was seriously damaged by Suemo and Agui, and needed time to regain the significant power it lost. It was dangerous to fight in as the weak side against strong opponents, but if they succeeded, then they could eat until they were full. The mist eye tablet immediately became one of the strongest weapons in Suemo's hands. Even though it was damaged to some degree, it was still powerful. After taking the mist eye tablet, the mist hall was like Suemo's backyard. The pitiful Lil Pagoda and Black Gold Seal Soldier were still in the middle of their indigestion. However, according to the ghost mist child, the mist that the two had consumed were not detrimental to them, and would be of benefit. Suemo finally put down his worries. They did not encounter anyone in the entire mist hall. Was his luck so good? Suemo couldn't help but feel happy. After the wind, rain, thunder, mist and snow halls are the four palaces: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. While the ghost mist child was not acquainted with other people, he was from here, and knew more than Suemo, who came in blind. Then we will enter now. Which palace is the easiest to pass? Suemo rubbed his hands. They are all difficult. The ghost mist child shook his head. The four palaces are for the 4 seasons. The Sun Tribe warrior that defeated me in the past was defeated in the Winter Palace. I had thought that he would be able to make it, and it was unexpected he failed at the last step. He was the strongest I've ever seen. The ghost mist child couldn't help but lament. Hearing this, Suemo immediately put away the smile on his face. Suemo knew very well how strong the Sun Tribe had been in the past. The other was able to defeat the ghost mist child in a true battle, the other's strength would definitely be great. Yet such a strong person was defeated in the 4 palaces. The dangers of the 4 palaces could be imagined. I have other comrades that came in with me, can we find them? Suemo thought of his guards and couldn't help but worry. The ghost mist child said, it is not difficult to find them. I guard the mist hall, I can still use some of the Totem Colosseum's abilities. However, there is no way to get to them. The 5 halls are not connected. However, if they pass through the 5 halls, Darren will be able to see them before they enter the 4 palaces. Suemo was worried and hurriedly described everyone's appearances. The ghost mist child had some abilities. With a wave of his hand, a mist mirror appeared with everyone's surroundings. Suemo saw that while everyone was fighting, they were not in danger. His worries were eased. After watching a while, Suemo suddenly asked, why are there no hall masters to be seen in the other halls? The ghost mild child sighed. The other 4 hall masters existed before, and they were all very strong. But who can last through tens of thousands of years? If I was not a Een soul, and had the mist eye tablet that forms its own world, I would have dissipated as well. Suemo thought about it and found it was right. Those that could survive from the ancient era were basically not the normal ones. He suddenly thought of an important question. I heard there is a Shin device nucleus here, do you know where it is? The ghost mist child stilled and then understood. So Master has come for that. Suemo was full of anticipation. You know where it is? The ghost mist child nodded. The item exists. The previous master gathered treasures from all over, desiring to forge a Shin device. This was something that the previous master was preparing to leave behind for those later. But before it could be forged, the previous master disappeared, and the Totem Colosseum was closed. Where is it? Suemo's eyes were bright as he listened. A thing from such a powerful person that was to be left behind for those after them, it definitely was something good. The ghost mist child thought. It should be at the previous master's residence. We need to pass through the 4 palaces. Suemo did not find that strange when he heard it. Where do we go now? We will wait for your comrades outside the gates of the 4 palaces, the Ghost Mist Child said. Under the Ghost Mist Child's guidance, Suemo's group quickly left the Mist Hall. The Ghost Mist Child's original Jinji had disappeared long ago. Adding on the Jinji that Suemo put in using the soul-setting divine light, he actually benefited and the Ghost Mist changed again. He was familiar with the Totem Colosseum, and the group quickly came to the gates of the 4 palaces of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. 4 bronze gates stood, carved with diagrams representing the 4 seasons. The rumors say the 5 halls of the Colosseum each have their own wonders. Nye Chen said emotionally. Even after being sealed for more than 10,000 years, it is still so magnificent. How great would have the scene back then? A few hints of yearning flashed through Zhenling Meng's eyes, but she quickly recovered. The records say that the 5 halls of the Totem Colosseum all have a hall master. We did not encounter a hall master on our way, it must have died already. What does shimmy mean? Nye Chen said thoughtfully. While the hall master of the Rain Hall is dead, the presence of the hall has not decreased. There should be a treasure sustaining the area here, Zhenling Meng said. Then what are we chattering about, go find it. Tan Su said impatiently. I had thought that those Ya would have some skill, who knew they were so weak. We haven't encountered one hard fight up until now. I think that the reputation of this Totem Colosseum is exaggerated. The 3 had encountered 3 Yao experts just now, but the difference in power had been clear. They had quickly won. Nye Chen was not as battle-thirsty as Tan Su. He shook his head and said, getting the item is the right thing. As to killing, other than Tian Huan and Mo Cloud Sea, the others are not interesting. Tan Zu's eyes suddenly lit up. I wonder if Mo Cloud Sea's Wei Xing has come. Eldest Shixiang always praises this person. Humph, if I encounter him, I will kill him. Let's see when we meet him. Nye Chen agreed with Tan Zu's words. If they had to choose the person that Kunlun disliked the most, it was definitely Wei Xing. Kunlun was the holy ground of sword xiu. Every Kunlun disciple was proud of this. Yet Wei Xing now showed signs of surpassing this, and every Kunlun disciple disliked it. There. Zhenling Meng suddenly pointed in a direction. The other 2 hurriedly looked over and saw a corpse. There was a cloth banner swaying in the wind next to the corpse. Written on the banner was an ancient Rain character. Zhenling Meng was widely read and joyfully surprised. The Rain Commanding Banner. Chapter 797, Kunlun Soul Lin Qian carefully pushed open the door. The blinding light from the seal formations in the room caused his heart to hurt. A hunched figure sat cross-legged in the middle of the room. If people saw this scene, they would be astonished. This hunched figure was the sect leader of Kunlun. Yet his arms had disappeared, and only half of his snowy white brows were light. He would occasionally cough, and with every cough, his hunched figure would heave and shudder. Lin Qian's nose felt sore. Thinking about Master's presence in the past, his heart twisted. Master. He called lightly. The sect leader heard him and he straightened in difficulty. He said gently, Qianer has come. His face was covered in wrinkles, his eyes blurry, his voice hoarse like an elderly person at the last days of his life. Yes. Lin Qian was afraid that he would be overwhelmed and cry, he only answered with one word. He quickly walked next to Master and started to take Master's pulse to check his wounds. Master had been injured when he had been exploring the ancient ruins. His arms were cut off, his body completely void of Ling power, his organs null of all life. Lin Qian thought of all the ways he could, but he could just barely manage to keep Master breathing. This gray presence didn't have any life at all. Lin Qian's heart twisted in pain. He knew that Master had wanted to forge a Shin device that truly belonged to him. Kun Lun's, capable person, was the first Shin device of Kun Lun, yet there were many parts about it that were not perfect. Master had not been content. You do not need to worry for me. The sect leader knew that his disciple was sad and comforted him. I have lived for so long, I've lived enough. Master. Lin Qian heard this and his tears could not be held back any longer. Child, you are a sect leader, you cannot be childish like this, the sect leader smiled. His gray-white face was lifeless. You have done well. I'm not worried handing Kun Lun to you. Lin Qian sobbed soundlessly. I only reached a clear mind a few days ago, and realized many things. Mo Cloud Sea Shin power is unique, and completely different from Kun Lun. We cannot just copy it. What Kun Lun cultivates is the sword is the truth. What we need is a Shin sword, not a raiment. The Shin device is good, but it is not suited to Kun Lun. One sword defeats all, that is the way of Kun Lun. The sect leader's hoarse voice echoed in the room. Lin Qian could hear that Master was warning him, and felt even more pained. I am satisfied at completing my greatest wish before death. You should not feel sad for me, the sect leader said gently. The sword that I found for you has great origins, it is one of the strongest Shin swords in the ancient era. While it has been sealed for a long time, it still has its power. Do not fail to live up to its reputation. This disciple will not fail you. Lin Qian stopped his tears and gave a sword oath. The sect leader nodded. I only have one wish left. Master, please speak. Lin Qian's gaze was determined. He decided inside that no matter what, he had to complete Master's wish. The sect leader raised his head. My arms and Ling power are gone, my life is gone, the only thing left is my soul. I wish to throw my soul into the immemorial Shin sword, and strengthen the sword soul. Lin Qian's tears that had just stopped began streaming down again. He shook his head. Master, no. Nurturing the sword with the soul was a cruel affair. The soul would experience endless pain and hardship, unable to ever reincarnate. This is Master's last wish. The sect leader's blurred eyes suddenly became sharp. We have been raised by Kun Lun. I, as the sect leader, will use my blood and soul to repay Kun Lun. If you do not promise, I will not die in peace. Master. Lin Qian lost his voice as he sobbed. I have decided. The sect leader said steelily. He closed his eyes and did not speak. The light of the formation flashed, Shin power flooding outwards. In the center, an ancient sword floated in the air. All of the Kun Lun elders, all of the core disciples were gathered here. Everyone had sorrowful expressions. When Lin Qian appeared carrying the sect leader on his back, everyone knelt in unspoken agreement. The sect leader had great authority in the sect, and was revered by everyone. Seeing the sect leader wither to this state, everyone felt a great pain. Kun Lun is now in your hands. The sect leader's voice was hoarse and quiet. Those that heard cried. Someone said sorrowfully, we do not dare to begrudge our bodies. The sect leader nodded, comforted. Lin Qian's tears rained down and he could not speak. He could only carry the sect leader forward. The sect leader did not say much. His soul came out of his body and he stepped into the seal formation. The sect leader had great cultivation, and his sword soul was pure. The immemorial sword in the center of the seal formation suddenly pulled at him. The sword soul of the sect leader turned into a stream of light and entered the sword. The surrounding Kun Lun elders and disciples stared to cry. Inside the sword, a soul endured astounding pain as it murmured. Qianer, Master can only guide you up to here. Inside Kun Lun realm, a sword essence pierced the sky, and all swords hummed together. The world was astounded. Wei Sheng was completely covered in blood, his clothing torn. He held the blood sword in his hand. In front of him, Wu Le's expression was ashen. There is such a strong person in the world. Wu Lu murmured to himself. After saying this, he fell face forward without any presence left. Wei Xing looked disheveled, but his expression was normal. The god-killing blood sword in his hand had just finished drinking blood and was unusually eerie. Suddenly, Wei Xing seemed to feel something and raised his head. Almost at the same moment, the god-killing blood sword in his hand seemed to be excited. The blood light erupted and shot into the sky. A blood pillar dozens of zhang thick erupted. Inside the pillar of light, Wei Xing was like a gold of killing ascending. Wei Xing raised his head and gazed at the sky. He felt the furious fighting spirit coming from the god-killing blood sword in his hand. He took a deep breath and pushed down the almost boiling fighting spirit he felt. His clear glassy eyes of blood were filled with shock. There was such a strong and powerful sword essence in the world. A sword essence that ruled the world. His excitement at beating his opponent just now completely disappeared. Wei Xing looked dazedly at the sky, his shock slowly disappearing from his eyes. What replaced it was strong fighting spirit and murderousness. Kuan Luan. Wei Xing murmured to himself as his hand unconsciously gripped the god-killing blood sword in his hand. Only one place would have such a strong sword essence that it would cause hopelessness. That was Kuan Luan. Wei Xing felt his spirit rise in his chest. Suddenly, nearby, the lightning was astoundingly thick as though something was stimulated by the sword essence that came down. Wei Xing's mind moved and he hurriedly flew towards where the lightning was gathered. The closer he flew, the more surprised he was. The lightning was shooting into the sky from the ground. Was there some treasure here? He quickly flew to the origin of the lightning. There was a bronze mirror laying on the ground. The word thunder was engraved on the bronze mirror. The copper mirror flashed with light and electrical snakes swam over it. Hiss, crack. A lightning snake suddenly shot into the sky. When the lightning snake left the bronze mirror, it would grow rapidly until it was the thickness of an arm and tear apart the sky. Zhuemo raised his head and looked into the sky. The ghost mist child also looked in shock at the sky. He murmured to himself, such strong sword essence. So there is such a strong person in the present era? He had yielded to Zhuemo, yet he could still see that the strongest of this era was much weaker compared to the ancient era. Yet this sword essence that seemed to conquer the world and was undefeatable shocked him. How could such a strong sword essence appear in this era? Suddenly, he felt something familiar within the sword essence that caused him to shake and unconsciously blurt out, "Immemorial." Immemorial. Zhuemo moved his gaze to look at the ghost mist child. The ghost mist child said in a dreamlike fashion, "Immemorial is the most famous Shen sword in our legends. They say that the wielder of this sword will become an Emperor Sky." Familiar with the sun gold leaf, Zhuemo knew what Emperor Sky meant. In the ancient era, the strongest of each era would become the leader of all the tribes, and be called Emperor Sky. Emperor Sky. Zhuemo showed a cold smirk, murder undisguised in his eyes. If he wants to be Emperor Sky, he needs to see if I agree or not. The ghost mist child stilled and then suddenly reacted. He stammered out, "Is this master's enemy?" Zhuemo glanced at him and said uncaringly, "Yes, enemies to the death." "What, you're afraid?" The ghost mist child quickly reacted. He looked at Zhuemo's unfriendly face and hurriedly expressed his attitude. "Master, what are you saying? Master's enemies are my enemies." Zhuemo moved his gaze away, but his face turned dark. Such a strong sword essence that could be felt even here. It was most likely because of the immemorial Shen sword that the ghost mist child spoke of. Lin Qian's individual strength was unparalleled. In the past, Zhuemo and a few others had to work together to stop one of his blows. Supposedly, Lin Qian had been the one to create Kuan Lun's Shen methodology. No one knew what level his strength was at, but Mo knew that it was definitely strong, very strong. If Mo had to pick another person in the world that could stand shoulder to shoulder with Wei Xingxixiang, he would definitely pick Lin Qian. And now, with this immemorial Shen sword, Lin Qian's strength probably reached a terrifying level. It could possibly be a height that no one in the world could reach. While Mo did not fear the other, when he thought that his worst enemy had obtained such a Shen device, Mo felt as uncomfortable as he had swallowed a fly. Kuan Luan. Let's wait and see. Suo Hull. Luo Li had an expression of helplessness. There was a group of guards behind him. The great majority of the guards were with him. However, when he encountered the people from Heartleaf Diana sect, they had charged forward without a second word. The sect leader of Heartleaf Diana sect hadn't thought that the enemy would fight without even a greeting. He lost the round. There were many guards in this group, a dozen that formed a battle formation. They were an even match for the elders of Heartleaf Diana sect. The sect leader had some skill, and the two sides were at a deadlock. The Heartleaf Diana sect leader's Shen power was vast, while Luo Li's fighting method was eerie. Wo Li was skilled in strange and unorthodox methods that made great trouble for the other. The peerless sword essence of the immemorial came from the sky without any warning. Wo Li opened her breath-stealing beautiful eyes. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.